Welcome, friend, to this gentle journey through time where we'll explore one of history's most magnificent rulers during an hour that invites rest and reflection. Tonight, we're traveling back over 3,000 years to witness the extraordinary life of Ramses II, a pharaoh whose reign defined the very pinnacle of ancient Egyptian civilization. Whether you're settling in for sleep or simply seeking to slow the rhythm of your evening, I'm grateful you've chosen to spend this time exploring the wonders of the ancient world with me. Our story unfolds in the 13th century before Christ, when the Nile Valley flourished under the rule of a man who would become known as Ramses the Great. This isn't merely a tale of conquest and monuments, though those elements certainly shaped his legacy. Instead, we'll walk alongside this remarkable pharaoh through his daily existence, witnessing how absolute power manifested itself in the routines, relationships, and responsibilities that filled his extraordinary life. What I'm about to reveal will transport you into the heart of ancient Thebes, Memphis, and Pyrameses, where every sunrise brought new challenges for a ruler governing the most powerful empire on earth. You'll experience the weight of the double crown, feel the morning breeze across the Nile as royal barges prepared for another day of governance, and understand how one man's vision transformed an entire civilization. The year is 1279 BCE, and the pre-dawn darkness still cloaks the royal quarters of Pyrameses, the magnificent new capital that bears our pharaoh's name. In the private chambers of the palace, Ramses II stirs beneath linen sheets finer than anything we might imagine today. These aren't merely bed coverings, but textiles woven by master craftsmen whose families have served the royal household for generations, each thread representing the pinnacle of Egyptian artistry and the vast trade networks that bring the finest materials from across the known world. The chamber itself reflects the absolute authority of its occupant. Walls adorned with painted reliefs tell stories of divine favor and military triumph, while golden fixtures catch and reflect the gentle light of oil lamps that burn throughout the night. The air carries the subtle fragrance of imported incense, frankincense from Punt mixing with myrrh from distant lands, creating an atmosphere that speaks of power extending far beyond Egypt's borders. As consciousness returns to the royal mind, Ramses becomes aware of the familiar sounds that mark the beginning of another day in his empire. From beyond the palace walls comes the distant murmur of a city awakening, the calls of merchants preparing their goods, the gentle lowing of cattle being led to pasture, and the rhythmic splash of oars as fishermen begin their work on the sacred river that gives life to all Egypt. A gentle knock at the chamber door announces the arrival of the royal attendants, men whose families have served the pharaonic line since the reign of his grandfather. These are not mere servants, but trusted officials whose discretion and competence have been proven across decades of faithful service. They enter with the practiced silence of those who understand that even the awakening of a god-king requires careful orchestration. The morning ritual begins, as it has for nearly 2 decades of Ramses's reign. Warm water infused with aromatic oils is brought in golden vessels, while soft linen towels wait nearby. The pharaoh's body, still powerful despite his advancing years, bears the subtle marks of a life spent in both luxury and action. Scars from youthful military campaigns remind him of battles fought in Syria and Nubia, while his hands, though softened by royal unguents, retain the calluses that speak of a ruler who once personally wielded sword and bow. As the attendants assist with the morning ablutions, Ramses' mind naturally turns to the day's responsibilities. Reports await his attention from governors throughout the empire, dispatches from military commanders stationed along distant frontiers, and requests for royal judgment on matters both grand and seemingly insignificant. Each decision he makes will ripple outward through a realm that stretches from Nubia in the south to the Euphrates in the north, affecting millions of lives in ways both immediate and lasting. The process of dressing a pharaoh involves far more than simple clothing. Each garment carries symbolic weight, every accessory reinforces divine authority, and the final appearance must project the perfect balance of approachable humanity and awesome majesty that defines successful kingship. The royal kilt, pleated with mathematical precision, is secured with a golden belt whose clasp bears the cartouche that proclaims his divine names to all who see it. The ceremonial beard, that distinctive symbol of pharaonic authority, is carefully attached and adjusted. Made of precious materials and crafted by master artisans, it transforms the man into the living embodiment of divine kingship that his subjects expect to encounter. The process is meditative in its precision, each element contributing to a transformation that occurs not just in appearance, but in the very consciousness of the wearer. The royal crown presents its own complexities. Today calls for the blue crown of war, the chypresh, that speaks of military authority and royal power over Egypt's enemies. Its weight, both physical and symbolic, settles onto the pharaoh's head with familiar authority. This is not merely ornamental headgear, but a sacred object that connects its wearer to the divine forces that govern the cosmos and maintain the delicate balance between order and chaos. As the final elements of royal regalia fall into place, Ramses II undergoes the daily transformation from man to pharaoh, from individual to institution, from mortal being to living God. The process is so ingrained after decades of repetition that it occurs almost without conscious thought, yet its significance never diminishes. Each morning brings this rebirth, this renewed commitment to the awesome responsibilities of absolute power. The first formal duty of each day involves receiving reports from the night watch commanders who have maintained security throughout the royal compound and the capital city beyond. These men approach with the careful deference due to divine authority, their reports delivered in the precise language of military protocol that leaves no room for ambiguity or misunderstanding. Great Lord of the Two Lands, the senior commander begins, employing one of the many titles that acknowledge Ramses' authority over both Upper and Lower Egypt. The night has passed in peace, the borders remain secure, the granaries are well guarded, and the sacred precincts of the temples show no signs of disturbance. Such reports might seem routine, but they represent the foundation upon which all other royal activities depend. An empire the size of Ramses' domain faces constant challenges from external enemies, internal dissent, and the simple logistics of governing millions of people across vast distances. The pharaoh's day cannot begin until he is assured that the basic framework of order remains intact. The morning meal, taken in a private dining chamber overlooking the palace gardens, provides both sustenance and opportunity for informal consultation with trusted advisors. The food itself reflects the abundance of Egypt under competent rule. Fresh bread, still warm from the royal bakeries, accompanies honey collected from hives maintained within the palace grounds. Fruits gathered from trees planted by previous pharaohs provide sweet accompaniment to dishes prepared by cooks whose skills have been refined through generations of royal service. During this meal, the pharaoh receives briefings on matters requiring immediate attention. A dispute between temple priests in Memphis needs royal arbitration. Reports from Nubian gold mines suggest production levels that exceed expectations, promising increased wealth for royal building projects. Messages from vassal kings in Syria request guidance on dealing with Hittite diplomatic overtures that may mask military preparations. Each issue presents its own complexities, its own opportunities for success or failure. The pharaoh's responses will be recorded by royal scribes, copied by teams of clerks, and dispatched throughout the empire by couriers whose swift travel ensures that royal will becomes reality across thousands of miles. The weight of such responsibility might overwhelm a lesser man, but Ramses has spent decades learning to process vast amounts of information quickly and decisively. As the morning meal concludes, preparations begin for the first major ceremony of the day. The pharaoh must appear before his court, that assembly of officials, priests, foreign ambassadors, and petitioners who gather daily to witness the exercise of royal authority. This appearance serves multiple purposes, demonstrating the pharaoh's health and vitality, providing opportunity for the administration of justice, and reinforcing the divine nature of royal power through elaborate ritual and ceremony. The throne room of Ramses represents the architectural pinnacle of Egyptian royal design. Massive columns, carved with reliefs depicting the pharaoh's victories and divine connections, support a ceiling painted with stars and celestial symbols that remind all present of the cosmic significance of royal authority. The throne itself, crafted from precious woods and inlaid with gold and precious stones, sits elevated above the assembled court, ensuring that the pharaoh literally and figuratively towers over his subjects. As Ramses takes his place upon this magnificent seat, the transformation from private individual to public institution reaches its completion. The man who moments before shared intimate conversation with trusted advisors now becomes the living embodiment of divine order, the focal point around which the entire Egyptian cosmos revolves. His every gesture carries weight, his every word becomes law, and his very presence serves as a reminder of the gods' continued favor toward Egypt and its people. The first petitioners of the day approach with the careful protocols that govern all interaction with divine authority. Their cases represent the full spectrum of human experience within the pharaoh's domain. A merchant seeks royal protection for a trading expedition to distant Punt. A provincial governor requests additional troops to deal with Bedouin raiders threatening desert trade routes. A group of farmers appeals for tax relief following unusually low flood levels that have reduced their harvest yields. Each case requires careful consideration, weighing immediate needs against long-term consequences, balancing competing interests while maintaining the overall stability and prosperity of the realm. The pharaoh's decisions will be recorded and studied, creating precedents that will guide future judgments and contributing to the legal traditions that help maintain order throughout the empire. Between these formal proceedings, messengers arrive bearing news from across the empire that requires immediate royal attention. A courier from the southern fortress of Aswan brings word that Nubian chieftains are gathering in unusual numbers near the Second Cataract, their intentions unclear but potentially threatening to the gold mining operations that fund so much of Egypt's magnificent building projects. Another messenger, dust-covered from his swift journey across the Sinai, delivers reports from Gaza indicating that Hittite diplomatic envoys have been seen meeting with local Canaanite princes, possibly attempting to forge alliances that could challenge Egyptian dominance in the Levant. The pharaoh listens to each report with the practiced attention of a ruler who has learned that the smallest details can herald the greatest changes. His questions are precise, revealing a mind that grasps not just the immediate implications of each situation, but the complex web of cause and effect that connects events across his vast domain. When did these gatherings begin? What tribute schedules might be affected? Which military units are currently positioned to respond if circumstances require intervention? As the morning court session continues, the throne room fills with the subtle sounds that accompany the exercise of absolute power. The soft scratch of reed pens as royal scribes record every decision and pronouncement. The whispered consultations between advisors as they prepare briefings on complex legal precedents. The gentle clink of gold ornaments as officials shift position during lengthy proceedings. These sounds create a backdrop of purposeful activity that reinforces the impression of an empire functioning under competent leadership. The pharaoh's own bearing during these sessions reflects decades of experience in managing the delicate balance between accessibility and majesty that effective rule requires. His responses to petitioners demonstrate genuine concern for his subjects' welfare, while his questions reveal comprehensive understanding of the administrative and economic systems that keep Egypt prosperous. When a delegation of temple priests requests additional funding for restoration work at Karnak, his immediate inquiry about current grain reserves and projected tax revenues shows a mind that instinctively connects religious obligations with practical fiscal realities. A particularly complex case involves a boundary dispute between two powerful families whose lands border the sacred lake at Memphis. Both claimants present carefully prepared arguments supported by property documents dating back several generations, while their respective advocates cite legal precedents and invoke divine authority for their positions. The pharaoh listens patiently as each side presents its evidence, occasionally asking questions that reveal his detailed knowledge of both property law and the specific geography involved in the dispute. The resolution, when it comes, demonstrates the wisdom that has made Ramses II one of Egypt's most respected rulers. Rather than simply favouring one claimant over another, he proposes a solution that preserves both families' honour while ensuring that the disputed land serves broader imperial interests. The boundary will be adjusted to create a buffer zone around the sacred lake, with both families receiving compensation from royal lands elsewhere. The decision satisfies the immediate dispute while establishing a precedent that protects religious sites from future commercial encroachment. As the formal court session concludes, the pharaoh retires briefly to his private study, a chamber lined with papyrus scrolls containing the accumulated wisdom of Egyptian administration. Here, surrounded by records of treaty negotiations, building project specifications, and correspondence with rulers throughout the ancient world, he reviews the afternoon's agenda with his closest advisors. These men, selected for their competence rather than their birth, provide the detailed knowledge and careful analysis that inform royal decision-making. The afternoon brings a different rhythm to the pharaoh's day. Where morning hours focused on immediate administrative needs and judicial responsibilities, the later hours typically involve longer-term planning and the ceremonial duties that reinforce royal authority throughout Egyptian society. Today's schedule includes an inspection of construction progress at the great temple complex being erected in his honor, followed by meetings with foreign ambassadors whose presence in Ramses reflects Egypt's central role in ancient Near Eastern diplomacy. The journey to the temple construction site provides opportunity to observe daily life within the royal capital. The pharaoh's procession moves through streets lined with workshops where craftsmen create the goods that make Egyptian civilization famous throughout the known world. Potters shape vessels whose elegant forms will grace tables from Nubia to Mesopotamia. Jewelers work precious metals into ornaments that combine artistic beauty with symbolic meaning. Textile workers produce fabrics whose quality surpasses anything available elsewhere in the ancient world. The people lining these streets represent the human foundation of Egyptian greatness. Farmers, whose careful cultivation of Nile Valley soil produces the agricultural surplus that supports urban civilization. Merchants whose trading expeditions bring exotic goods and foreign wealth into Egyptian coffers. Artisans whose skills create the monuments and artifacts that will preserve Ramses' memory for millennia. Priests whose rituals maintain the divine favor essential to continued prosperity. Their reactions to the pharaoh's passage reveal the complex relationship between ruler and subjects that characterizes successful ancient kingdoms. Respectful acknowledgement of royal authority combines with genuine affection for a leader whose policies have brought peace and prosperity. Children wave excitedly at the colorful procession, while their parents offer the traditional gestures of submission and loyalty. Shopkeepers pause in their business to witness the passage of divine authority through their neighborhood. At the temple construction site, the pharaoh encounters a scene of controlled chaos that represents one of humanity's greatest organizational achievements. Hundreds of workers, from skilled stone carvers to simple laborers, coordinate their efforts under the direction of master builders whose knowledge encompasses both practical engineering and sacred geometry. The massive stones being shaped and positioned will stand for thousands of years, testament to both royal ambition and Egyptian technical mastery. The pharaoh's inspection tour reveals his detailed understanding of architectural principles and construction techniques. His questions about foundation depth, stone quality, and structural supports demonstrate knowledge gained through direct involvement in numerous building projects throughout his reign. When he suggests modifications to the planned decoration scheme, His recommendations reflect both aesthetic sensibility and awareness of the symbolic messages that architectural elements convey to future generations. The master builder's explanations reveal the careful planning required for projects of this magnitude. Quarrying operations in distant Aswan must be coordinated with river transport schedules to ensure steady material deliveries. Skilled craftsmen must be recruited and trained for specialized tasks that require years to master. Supply chains stretching across the empire must function smoothly to provide the tools, food, and materials needed to sustain thousands of workers over decades of construction. As afternoon shadows lengthen across the construction site, the pharaoh prepares to return to the palace for his next appointment. The foreign ambassadors awaiting his attention represent kingdoms and city-states throughout the ancient Near East, their presence in Pyrameses reflecting Egypt's position as the dominant power in regional affairs. These diplomatic encounters require careful balance between demonstrating Egyptian strength and maintaining the cooperative relationships essential for trade and security. The audience chamber chosen for these meetings projects appropriate magnificence while facilitating the detailed negotiations that characterize ancient diplomacy. Walls decorated with scenes of Egyptian military victories provide subtle reminders of the consequences of hostile actions, while the arrangement of seating and protocol allows foreign representatives to maintain dignity while acknowledging Egyptian supremacy. The first ambassador to approach the throne represents the Hittite Empire, Egypt's most formidable rival and recent partner in an unprecedented peace treaty that has transformed the balance of power across the ancient world. His carefully rehearsed words carry the weight of negotiations that began years before and continue to shape relationships between the two greatest powers of the age. The tribute he presents, exquisite silver vessels crafted by Hittite artisans, symbolizes not submission, but mutual respect between equals who have chosen cooperation over endless warfare. Ramses receives these offerings with the measured dignity that diplomacy requires. His responses carefully calibrated to acknowledge Hittite strength while maintaining Egyptian precedence. The conversation moves beyond formal pleasantries to address practical matters of trade regulation, border security, and the complex prisoner exchange agreements that remain from their previous conflicts. Each point requires careful consideration, as today's decisions will influence relationships for generations to come. The afternoon light streaming through high windows illuminates the intricate dance of ancient diplomacy, as additional ambassadors present their credentials and concerns. A delegation from the Mesopotamian city-states seeks Egyptian mediation in disputes over river rights that threaten regional stability. Representatives from Mediterranean trading centers request protection for merchant vessels operating in waters where pirates have become increasingly bold. Envoys from African kingdoms beyond the cataracts offer exotic goods in exchange for Egyptian manufactured items and technical expertise. Each diplomatic encounter reveals different aspects of Egypt's central role in ancient international relations. The pharaoh's responses demonstrate comprehensive knowledge of regional politics, trade patterns, and military capabilities that extends far beyond Egypt's borders. His memory for details impresses even experienced diplomats, as he recalls specific provisions from treaties negotiated years earlier and references personal conversations with rulers he has never met but knows through extensive correspondence. Between formal audiences, trusted advisors provide updates on intelligence gathered through Egypt's extensive network of informants and allies. Reports from Syrian cities describe Assyrian military movements that may signal renewed imperial ambitions in the north. Messages from trading partners along the Red Sea coast warn of tribal unrest that could threaten the precious incense routes. Diplomatic correspondence from Cyprus reveals concerns about increasing piracy that affects commerce throughout the eastern Mediterranean. The pharaoh processes this information with the analytical skill of a ruler who understands that successful governance requires constant attention to developments beyond immediate borders. His questions probe beneath surface events to identify underlying trends and potential threats. Are these Assyrian movements routine military exercises, or preparation for actual campaigns? Do the reported tribal gatherings represent seasonal migration patterns or organized resistance to Egyptian influence? Can diplomatic pressure resolve the piracy problem, or will military intervention become necessary? As evening approaches, the pace of formal audiences begins to slow, allowing time for the private consultations that often prove more significant than the public ceremonies. In a smaller chamber, reserved for confidential discussions, the pharaoh meets with his intelligence chief, a man whose network of agents extends throughout the known world and whose reports provide the detailed information essential for informed decision-making. Tonight's briefing covers developments that require immediate attention and careful planning. Hittite military units have been observed conducting unusual training exercises near the Syrian border, possibly testing new tactical approaches or preparing for operations against rebellious vassal states. Nubian gold production continues to exceed expectations, providing resources for expanded building projects, but also attracting unwanted attention from raiders seeking to disrupt mining operations. Mediterranean trading reports suggest that new technological developments in metalworking and shipbuilding may be shifting commercial advantages toward kingdoms that have traditionally been secondary powers. The pharaoh's responses to these reports reveal strategic thinking that encompasses both immediate tactical concerns and long-term imperial planning. He authorizes additional intelligence gathering regarding Hittite activities while ensuring that Egyptian responses remain within the bounds of their peace treaty. He approves reinforcement of Nubian garrison forces, but emphasizes that protection measures must not disrupt the mining operations they are meant to secure. He directs trade officials to investigate new technologies and assess their potential impact on Egyptian commercial dominance. The evening meal provides opportunity for relaxation and informal conversation with family members whose presence offers respite from the constant demands of imperial responsibility. Queen Nefertari, whose beauty and intelligence have made her a legendary figure throughout the ancient world, shares news from the royal household and observations about court politics that complement the pharaoh's official briefings. Her insights into the motivations and concerns of nobles' wives often reveal important information about factional loyalties and potential sources of internal conflict. The royal children, now adults with their own responsibilities within the imperial administration, contribute their perspectives on issues affecting their respective areas of authority. Crown Prince Amun Herkhapeshef reports on military training programs designed to maintain Egyptian battlefield superiority. Prince Ramses discusses administrative reforms that could improve provincial governance efficiency. Princess Bintanath describes her oversight of textile production facilities that generate significant export revenue while employing thousands of skilled workers. These family conversations reveal the personal side of absolute power, showing how royal relationships blend intimate affection with political calculation. The pharaoh's questions about his children's activities demonstrate genuine paternal interest, while also ensuring that family members remain aligned with imperial objectives. Their reports provide valuable information about administrative effectiveness and potential problems, while their presence reminds him of the dynasty's future and the importance of maintaining stability for subsequent generations. As darkness settles over Pyrameses, the pharaoh retires to his private chambers for the final activities of another day in the life of ancient Egypt's greatest ruler. The evening's correspondence includes messages from distant governors requiring royal guidance, reports from military commanders stationed along frontier regions, and personal letters from allied rulers throughout the ancient Near East. Each document receives careful attention, as the pharaoh's responses will influence events across vast distances and affect countless lives. The process of dictating replies reveals the methodical approach that has made Ramses II one of history's most effective administrators. His instructions to provincial governors balance central authority with local autonomy, providing clear guidance while allowing flexibility for regional circumstances. His communications with military commanders demonstrate detailed understanding of tactical situations while emphasizing strategic objectives that serve broader imperial interests. His letters to foreign rulers maintain the delicate balance between friendly cooperation and subtle intimidation that characterizes successful ancient diplomacy. Between dictation sessions, the pharaoh reviews architectural plans for future building projects that will further enhance Egypt's reputation for monumental construction. The proposed additions to the Karnak temple complex require careful integration with existing structures while incorporating new decorative elements that celebrate recent military victories and diplomatic achievements. Plans for expanded harbour facilities at Memphis must accommodate increasing commercial traffic while maintaining security against potential enemy infiltration. These construction projects represent more than mere building activities, serving as employment programs that provide work for thousands of skilled craftsmen, training opportunities for younger artisans, and visible demonstrations of Egyptian prosperity and technical capability. The pharaoh's attention to design details reflects understanding that these monuments will influence Egypt's reputation for centuries after their completion, requiring standards of excellence that surpass anything attempted by rival kingdoms. The day's final administrative task involves reviewing financial reports that detail the empire's economic condition and resource allocation priorities. Tax collection figures from various provinces indicate overall prosperity while revealing regional variations that require attention. Military expenditure accounts show the costs of maintaining Egyptian dominance, while suggesting areas where efficiency improvements might reduce expenses without compromising security. Building project budgets demonstrate the careful financial planning required to sustain multiple construction efforts simultaneously. These economic considerations influence every aspect of royal policy, as the pharaoh must balance competing demands for limited resources while maintaining the level of expenditure necessary to preserve Egyptian superiority. Military forces require constant funding for equipment, training, and operational expenses. Building projects demand enormous investments in materials, labor, and transportation. Administrative operations consume significant resources through salaries for thousands of officials and the infrastructure necessary for governing a vast empire. As midnight approaches, Ramses II prepares for sleep with the same careful attention to ritual and symbolism that characterizes every aspect of pharaonic existence. The process of removing royal regalia and returning to private humanity provides daily opportunity for reflection on the burdens and privileges of absolute power. Tomorrow will bring new challenges and opportunities, requiring fresh applications of the wisdom and experience accumulated over decades of successful rule. The chamber falls quiet except for the gentle sounds of a great city settling into rest. Beyond the palace walls, millions of subjects sleep peacefully under the protection of Egyptian military might and administrative competence. Along distant frontiers, garrison forces maintain their vigilant watch against potential enemies. Throughout the empire, officials and administrators prepare for another day of implementing royal policies and maintaining the complex systems that keep Egyptian civilization functioning smoothly. The pharaoh's final thoughts before sleep often turn to the enormous responsibility of governing so many lives and managing such vast territories. Every decision affects countless individuals, every policy influences entire regions, and every action contributes to the historical legacy that will define his reign for future generations. The weight of such responsibility might overwhelm a lesser individual, but Ramses has learned to find satisfaction in the successful exercise of power and the knowledge that his efforts contribute to Egyptian greatness. Sleep comes gradually to the royal mind, bringing dreams that blend memories of past achievements with visions of future accomplishments. In these nocturnal visions, the pharaoh sees completed temples that will stand for millennia, successful military campaigns that extend Egyptian influence even further, and peaceful relations with foreign powers that ensure continued prosperity for his people. Such dreams provide both rest and inspiration, preparing the royal mind for another day of the challenges and opportunities that define life at the pinnacle of ancient power. The night passes peacefully over Ramses, while throughout the empire, the systems and institutions that Ramses II has built continue their work of maintaining order, prosperity, and security for the greatest civilization the world has yet known. As dawn breaks over the Nile Valley, the great river reflects the first golden rays of sunlight, while gentle currents carry the eternal rhythm that has sustained Egyptian civilization for countless generations. Within the royal palace, Ramses II awakens to another day that will demand every ounce of his legendary wisdom and administrative genius. The morning breeze carries the familiar scents of lotus blossoms from the palace gardens and freshly baked bread from the royal kitchens. These simple pleasures ground the pharaoh in the sensory experiences that connect him to his humanity, even as the weight of divine kingship settles upon his shoulders once more. The transition from sleep to consciousness brings immediate awareness of the day's pressing concerns, as his mind automatically catalogues the decisions awaiting his attention and the complex web of relationships requiring careful management. The royal barbers arrive with implements crafted from the finest bronze and obsidian, their movements precise from decades of attending to pharaonic grooming needs. The process of shaping the royal beard and trimming the hair that will be concealed beneath crowns and ceremonial headdresses requires absolute precision, as any imperfection in the pharaoh's appearance could be interpreted as a sign of divine disfavor or imperial decline. While receiving this personal attention, Ramses listens to the morning reports from his most trusted advisors. The night's intelligence briefings reveal developments that require immediate consideration. A merchant caravan returning from the mysterious land of Punt has brought disturbing news of tribal movements in the Red Sea region that could threaten the precious incense trade routes. The Hittite ambassador has requested an urgent audience to discuss border incidents involving Egyptian vassal states in northern Syria. Most concerning, reports from the Nubian gold mines suggest that increased production has attracted attention from desert raiders, whose bold attacks are becoming more frequent and better organized. Each piece of information adds another layer to the complex strategic puzzle that defines imperial governance in an age when communication travels no faster than horses can run, and military responses require weeks or months to organize and execute. The pharaoh's questions reveal a mind that instinctively grasps the interconnections between seemingly unrelated events, understanding how tribal unrest in one region can influence trade patterns hundreds of miles away, and how diplomatic tensions with major powers can affect the loyalty of distant vassals. The morning meal unfolds in the royal dining chamber, where tables inlaid with ivory and precious stones support dishes that represent the agricultural abundance of Egypt under competent rule. Fresh figs and dates from the palace orchards accompany bread made from grain, whose quality surpasses anything available to common citizens. The pharaoh's appetite remains robust despite his advancing years, reflecting the physical vitality that his subjects expect from their divine ruler. During this meal, senior officials present detailed briefings on matters requiring royal attention throughout the day. The high priest of Ammon seeks approval for modifications to the temple ritual calendar that would better align religious ceremonies with astronomical observations. The commander of the royal guard requests authorization for expanded recruitment to address increased security concerns following recent intelligence about potential assassination plots. The overseer of royal works presents updated schedules for the massive building projects that will immortalize the pharaoh's reign in stone and gold. Each briefing requires careful consideration of competing priorities and limited resources. The pharaoh's responses demonstrate the analytical skills that have made him one of history's most effective administrators. When the high priest explains the astronomical calculations underlying his proposed calendar changes, Ramses displays knowledge of celestial mechanics that impresses even the temple scholars. When the guard commander outlines his security concerns, the pharaoh's questions reveal detailed understanding of both palace vulnerabilities and the broader intelligence networks that monitor threats throughout the empire. The walk to the throne room provides opportunity to observe the daily functioning of the royal household that supports Egyptian imperial administration. Scribes hurry past carrying papyrus scrolls containing correspondence from governors throughout the empire. Craftsmen transport partially completed artifacts destined for diplomatic gifts or religious ceremonies. Kitchen staff organize the elaborate meal preparations required for entertaining foreign dignitaries whose presence in Ramses reflects Egypt's central role in ancient international relations. The throne room itself presents a magnificent display of Egyptian artistic achievement and imperial wealth. Columns carved with intricate reliefs depicting the pharaoh's divine connections and military victories support a ceiling painted with star charts that remind all present of the cosmic significance of royal authority. The throne, crafted from cedar wood, imported from Lebanon, and inlaid with gold mined in distant Nubia, represents the geographical extent of Egyptian influence and the tribute that flows into royal coffers from across the known world. As courtiers, officials, and petitioners gather for the morning audience, their conversations create a subtle buzz of activity that reflects the empire's ongoing business. Provincial governors discuss tax collection strategies with treasury officials. Military commanders coordinate supply arrangements for frontier garrisons. Foreign merchants negotiate trading agreements with royal commercial agents. These interactions represent the human networks that transform royal policies into practical reality across vast distances and diverse populations. The formal proceedings begin with the traditional acknowledgements of royal divinity and imperial authority that reinforce the sacred nature of pharaonic power. Incense burns in golden braziers while priests offer prayers for continued divine favor and imperial success. The ceremonial language employed during these rituals connects contemporary governance with ancient traditions that legitimize royal authority through association with the gods and cosmic order. The first major case involves a complex inheritance dispute that has divided a wealthy merchant family whose business operations span multiple provinces. The competing claimants present elaborate arguments supported by property documents, witness testimonies, and legal precedents dating back several generations. Their advocates cite relevant laws and invoke religious principles, while their supporters pack the audience chamber to demonstrate the social significance of the pending decision. The pharaoh's handling of this case reveals the judicial wisdom that has earned him respect throughout Egyptian society. Rather than simply applying existing legal formulas, he examines the underlying circumstances that created the dispute and seeks solutions that preserve family relationships while protecting broader commercial interests. His questions probe the motivations of various parties, while his observations identify compromise possibilities that might satisfy competing claims without creating dangerous precedents. The resolution demonstrates the creative problem-solving that characterizes effective ancient governance. The disputed inheritance will be divided according to a formula that recognizes both traditional succession rights and demonstrated business competence. The family's trading operations will be restructured to provide meaningful roles for all legitimate claimants while ensuring continued profitability. Most importantly, the settlement establishes principles that can guide similar cases in the future while maintaining social stability among the merchant classes whose activities generate significant imperial revenues. Between formal cases, messengers arrive with urgent communications requiring immediate royal attention. A courier from the southern border brings word that Nubian chieftains have sent diplomatic envoys seeking audience with the pharaoh to discuss territorial arrangements and tribute obligations. Another messenger, his horse lathered from hard riding across desert routes, delivers intelligence about Libyan tribal movements that suggest possible coordination with traditional enemies of Egyptian rule. The pharaoh's responses to these developments reflect strategic thinking that encompasses both immediate tactical concerns and long-term imperial objectives. He authorizes the Nubian diplomatic mission while ensuring that appropriate security precautions are implemented. He directs military commanders to monitor Libyan activities without taking provocative actions that might precipitate unnecessary conflicts. His instructions demonstrate the careful balance between strength and restraint that characterizes successful imperial policy. The morning's judicial proceedings continue with cases that illustrate the full spectrum of challenges facing Egyptian society under Ramses' rule. A group of farmers appeals for tax relief following localized flooding that destroyed their crops, despite overall favorable conditions throughout the Nile Valley. Temple priests request additional funding for restoration work at sacred sites damaged by recent earthquakes. Artisan guilds seek royal intervention in disputes with foreign competitors whose products are affecting domestic markets. Each case requires consideration of precedents, available resources, and potential consequences that extend far beyond the immediate parties involved. The pharaoh's decisions reveal comprehensive understanding of agricultural economics, religious obligations, and commercial policy that reflects decades of experience in managing complex imperial systems. His judgments balance competing interests while maintaining the overall stability and prosperity that define successful ancient governance. As midday approaches, the formal audience concludes with the traditional ceremonies that reinforce royal authority and divine favor. Offerings are presented to acknowledge the pharaoh's generosity and wisdom, while prayers request continued blessings for the empire and its people. The elaborate rituals serve both religious and political purposes, connecting contemporary governance with ancient traditions while demonstrating the wealth and organizational capabilities that sustain Egyptian dominance. The afternoon brings different challenges as the pharaoh shifts his attention from judicial responsibilities to administrative oversight and diplomatic activities. The royal study, lined with papyrus scrolls containing the accumulated wisdom of Egyptian governance, provides the setting for detailed consultations with senior officials whose expertise guides imperial policy across diverse areas of responsibility. The Treasury Minister presents comprehensive financial reports that reveal both the empire's current strength and emerging challenges that require careful management. Tax revenues continue to exceed expectations in most provinces, reflecting the economic prosperity that flows from political stability and effective administration. However, increased military expenditures necessitated by growing security concerns are beginning to strain budgets allocated for construction projects and social programs. The discussion that follows demonstrates the pharaoh's sophisticated understanding of fiscal policy and economic planning. His questions probe the underlying factors driving revenue variations, while his suggestions for cost reduction reflect knowledge of administrative inefficiencies and potential savings opportunities. The conversation reveals a mind that grasps the complex relationships between taxation, public spending, and economic growth that determine imperial sustainability over the long term. Military briefings occupy a significant portion of the afternoon as commanders report on developments affecting Egyptian security interests throughout the empire and beyond. The frontier situation remains generally stable, but intelligence reports suggest that potential enemies are testing Egyptian responses through increasingly bold incursions and diplomatic provocations. The challenge lies in maintaining defensive readiness without appearing weak or triggering conflicts that could escalate beyond Egyptian control. The pharaoh's military experience, gained through personal participation in campaigns during his younger years, informs his analysis of strategic options and tactical requirements. His questions about troop deployments, supply arrangements, and communication systems reflect understanding of the practical factors that determine military effectiveness. His decisions balance the need for deterrent strength against the costs of maintaining large forces in remote locations where they cannot contribute to productive economic activities. Foreign policy discussions reveal the complex diplomatic challenges facing Egypt as the dominant power in ancient Near Eastern international relations. Recent intelligence suggests that the Hittite Empire, despite their formal peace treaty, may be secretly encouraging vassal states to challenge Egyptian authority in Syria and Palestine. Assyrian military movements in northern Mesopotamia could signal renewed imperial ambitions that might threaten the delicate balance of power that has maintained regional stability. The pharaoh's approach to these diplomatic challenges demonstrates the strategic patience that has characterized his most successful foreign policy initiatives. Rather than responding immediately to provocations that might be designed to draw Egypt into premature conflicts, he authorizes enhanced intelligence gathering while maintaining public adherence to existing treaty obligations. His instructions emphasize the importance of gathering accurate information about enemy intentions while preserving flexibility for future responses. The late afternoon audience with foreign ambassadors provides opportunity to reinforce Egyptian diplomatic positions while gathering information about international developments that could affect imperial interests. The Mesopotamian envoys present tribute offerings that acknowledge Egyptian supremacy while seeking assurances about trade route security and commercial privileges. Their carefully rehearsed presentations reveal underlying concerns about Assyrian expansion and its potential impact on established trading relationships. The pharaoh's responses balance diplomatic courtesy with subtle demonstrations of Egyptian power and determination. His knowledge of regional politics impresses even experienced diplomats, while his promises of continued protection reassure allies worried about changing power balances. The gifts he bestows in return represent Egyptian wealth and manufacturing capabilities, while the terms of trade agreements favor Egyptian commercial interests without appearing exploitative. Representatives from Mediterranean island kingdoms present more complex challenges as they seek Egyptian support for resistance against increasing piracy that threatens maritime commerce throughout the Eastern Sea. Their requests for naval assistance must be balanced against Egyptian priorities and resource limitations, while their offers of tribute and alliance create opportunities for expanding imperial influence into new regions. The diplomatic calculations involved in these negotiations reveal the sophisticated strategic thinking that has made Ramses II one of history's most successful imperial rulers. His decisions must consider immediate tactical advantages against long-term strategic objectives, while balancing the costs of military intervention against the benefits of enhanced security and expanded influence. The conversations demonstrate his comprehensive understanding of naval warfare, commercial economics, and regional politics. As evening shadows lengthen across Pyramesses, the pharaoh's attention turns to the cultural and religious responsibilities that occupy an increasingly important role in his daily schedule. The inspection of ongoing construction projects at the Great Temple Complex provides opportunity to monitor progress on the monumental buildings that will preserve his memory for future generations, while demonstrating Egyptian architectural and artistic supremacy to contemporary observers. The construction site represents one of humanity's greatest organizational achievements, as thousands of workers coordinate their efforts under the direction of master builders, whose knowledge encompasses both practical engineering and sacred geometry. The massive stones being shaped and positioned according to precise mathematical calculations will create structures whose beauty and permanence surpass anything attempted by rival civilizations. The pharaoh's detailed knowledge of architectural principles becomes apparent as he discusses design modifications with project supervisors and examines stone carving work that will decorate interior chambers. His suggestions for adjustments to planned decorative schemes reflect both aesthetic sensibility and understanding of the symbolic messages that architectural elements convey to future generations. The craftsmen working under his direction represent the pinnacle of ancient artistic achievement. The evening meal provides welcome respite from official responsibilities while offering opportunity for family conversations that reveal the personal dimensions of imperial life. Queen Nefertari's presence brings intelligence about court social dynamics that complement the pharaoh's political briefings, while her observations about women's concerns provide perspectives often overlooked in masculine administrative circles. The royal children, now mature adults with their own governmental responsibilities, contribute insights about administrative effectiveness and potential problems in their respective areas of authority. Prince Khayemwaset's oversight of religious institutions provides valuable information about priestly attitudes and temple finances. Prince Meneptar's military commands offer perspectives on frontier security and army morale that supplement formal intelligence reports. These family discussions blend intimate affection with political calculation as personal relationships serve broader dynastic objectives. The pharaoh's questions about his children's activities demonstrate genuine paternal interest while ensuring that family members remain aligned with imperial policies. Their reports provide informal intelligence about administrative effectiveness and potential sources of internal opposition. The evening's correspondence includes messages from distant provinces requiring royal guidance on local challenges that cannot be resolved through established administrative procedures. A governor in Upper Egypt requests permission to modify tax collection schedules to accommodate unusual flooding patterns that have delayed harvest activities. Military commanders along the Nubian frontier seek authorization for diplomatic initiatives with tribal leaders whose cooperation could reduce security costs while maintaining regional stability. Each communication requires careful consideration of local circumstances against broader imperial policies while maintaining consistency in royal decisions across diverse geographical and cultural environments. The pharaoh's responses demonstrate the administrative flexibility that has enabled Egyptian governance to adapt to changing conditions while preserving essential unity of purpose and authority. Intelligence reports received during evening briefings reveal developments requiring immediate attention and long-term planning adjustments. Hittite military exercises near the Syrian border suggest possible preparations for operations against Egyptian vassal states, despite formal peace treaty obligations. Increased Libyan raiding activity along western frontier regions indicates coordination that could threaten major population centers if not addressed promptly. The pharaoh's analysis of these intelligence developments reflects strategic thinking that encompasses multiple scenarios and contingency planning for various possible outcomes. His questions about enemy capabilities and intentions probe beneath surface events to identify underlying trends and potential threats. His instructions for response preparations balance immediate tactical requirements against longer-term strategic objectives while maintaining operational security essential for successful military and diplomatic initiatives. As night settles over the royal capital, Ramses II completes another day of governing the ancient world's greatest empire through the application of wisdom, experience, and administrative competence that has sustained Egyptian dominance for nearly 2 decades of his remarkable reign. The challenges facing tomorrow will require fresh applications of the same qualities that have enabled his unprecedented success in managing the complex responsibilities of absolute power in an age when communication travels slowly and enemies gather beyond distant horizons. The pharaoh's final thoughts before sleep often turn to the enormous scope of his responsibilities and the historical legacy that his decisions will create for future generations. Every policy influences countless lives across vast territories, while every action contributes to the reputation that will define his reign in the collective memory of Egyptian civilization. The weight of such responsibility provides both burden and satisfaction as he reflects on another successful day of maintaining order, prosperity, and security throughout his magnificent empire. Sleep comes gradually to the royal mind, as the sounds of a great city settling into rest drift through palace windows. Beyond the walls of Ramses, millions of subjects sleep peacefully under the protection of Egyptian military might and administrative competence. Along distant frontiers, garrison forces maintain vigilant watch against potential enemies, while throughout the empire, officials and administrators prepare for another day of implementing royal policies and maintaining the complex systems that sustain Egyptian civilization. The night passes quietly over the Nile Valley, while the eternal river continues its ancient journey toward the Mediterranean Sea, carrying the dreams and aspirations of a people whose achievements under Ramses the Great will echo through history long after the last pyramid stone has crumbled, and the final hieroglyph has been deciphered by scholars seeking to understand the glory that was ancient Egypt at the height of its magnificent power. Dreams drift through the royal consciousness like mist across the Nile, carrying visions of golden barges sailing toward horizons where the gods themselves await. In these nocturnal wanderings, Ramses witnesses the completion of monuments that will stand when all memory of lesser kings has faded. He sees vast armies marching in perfect formation across desert sands, their bronze weapons glinting in eternal sunlight, while conquered enemies bow before the might of Egypt, restored to its rightful dominance over all nations. The pharaoh's sleeping mind revisits moments of triumph that have defined his extraordinary reign. He stands again upon the battlefield of Kadesh, where his personal courage and divine protection turned near disaster into legendary victory against the Hittite multitudes. He walks once more through the halls of newly completed temples, their walls alive with colours that capture the very essence of divine favour, while priests chant prayers that will echo through eternity. But even in sleep, the responsibilities of absolute power intrude upon peaceful rest. The royal consciousness processes the endless stream of information that flows daily into the imperial administration, sorting threats from opportunities, weighing the needs of distant provinces against the demands of central authority, balancing the competing claims of military necessity and civilian prosperity that define successful governance in an age of constant challenge. The pre-dawn hours bring a peculiar clarity to the pharaoh's thoughts, that mystical time when the veil between mortal understanding and divine wisdom grows thinnest. Ancient Egyptian belief holds that these moments before sunrise offer special communion with the gods, when earthly rulers receive guidance for the decisions that will shape their realms and determine the fate of countless subjects whose lives depend upon royal wisdom and benevolence. As consciousness gradually returns, Ramses becomes aware of the subtle changes in palace atmosphere that herald another day's beginning. The night guards exchange positions with their morning replacements in movements so practiced they create barely a whisper of sound. Kitchen fires are rekindled for the preparation of royal meals, while servants begin the careful process of organizing the day's ceremonial requirements. The great city beyond palace walls stirs to life as merchants prepare their wares and farmers ready themselves for another day of cultivating the fertile soil that sustains Egyptian prosperity. The morning ablutions commence with the arrival of attendants whose families have served the pharaonic line since the dynasty's establishment. These men approach their duties with reverence born of generations of faithful service, understanding that their careful attention to royal needs enables the pharaoh to focus his energies on the weightier matters of imperial governance. The water they bring has been heated to precise temperature and infused with aromatics whose scents will linger throughout the day, subtle reminders of royal status in a world where such luxuries remain beyond the reach of common citizens. The process of royal dressing begins with the selection of garments appropriate to the day's activities. Today's schedule requires the ceremonial regalia suitable for receiving a particularly important delegation from the mysterious kingdom of Kush, whose emissaries have travelled hundreds of miles through dangerous territory to seek audience with the pharaoh. The diplomatic significance of this meeting demands that every element of a royal appearance project the perfect balance of approachable dignity and awesome authority that characterizes effective ancient statecraft. The golden belt that secures the royal kilt bears inscriptions that proclaim the pharaoh's divine names and military victories to all who observe its intricate craftsmanship. Each hieroglyphic symbol has been carved with mathematical precision by master artisans whose skills represent the pinnacle of Egyptian artistic achievement. The belt's weight serves as a constant reminder of the responsibilities that accompany supreme authority, while its beauty demonstrates the wealth and cultural sophistication that Egyptian leadership brings to international relations. The selection of appropriate crown presents its own symbolic complexities. The Red Crown of Lower Egypt speaks to the pharaoh's authority over the densely populated delta region, where much of the empire's agricultural wealth is produced. The White Crown of Upper Egypt represents dominion over the southern territories, whose gold mines and exotic trade goods contribute significantly to imperial finances. Today's diplomatic requirements suggest the combined crown that symbolizes unified rule over all Egyptian territories, a visual reminder of the political achievement that created the foundation for contemporary prosperity. The attachment of the ceremonial beard requires particular care, as this distinctive symbol of pharaonic authority must project divine majesty while remaining secure throughout lengthy ceremonial procedures. Crafted from precious materials and decorated with symbols that connect the wearer to the gods themselves, the royal beard transforms mortal features into the living embodiment of divine kingship that Egyptian subjects expect to encounter in their ruler's presence. The transformation from private individual to public institution reaches completion with the donning of jewelry that represents both personal adornment and political statement. Rings bearing the royal seals proclaim administrative authority over imperial bureaucracy. Necklaces incorporating precious stones from distant territories demonstrate the geographical extent of Egyptian influence. Bracelets crafted by master goldsmiths showcase the artistic achievements that make Egyptian culture famous throughout the ancient world. As the final elements of royal regalia fall into place, attendants conduct the careful inspection that ensures every detail meets the standards of perfection expected in royal appearance. A loose thread or tarnished ornament could be interpreted as evidence of declining imperial power, while perfect presentation reinforces the impression of divine favor and administrative competence that sustains public confidence in pharaonic authority. The morning reports begin with updates from intelligence networks that span the known world. Agents stationed in foreign capitals provide assessments of political developments that could affect Egyptian interests. Merchants returning from distant trading expeditions share observations about economic conditions and military preparations in rival kingdoms. Desert scouts report on tribal movements that might threaten caravan routes or indicate coordinated hostile activities. The information gathered through these diverse sources creates a comprehensive picture of international conditions that enables informed decision-making about diplomatic initiatives and military preparations. The pharaoh's questions reveal analytical skills that extract maximum insight from fragmentary reports, while his instructions demonstrate strategic thinking that anticipates future developments and prepares appropriate responses. Military commanders present overnight dispatches from frontier garrisons whose vigilance protects Egyptian territory against external threats. The northern borders remain stable despite occasional Hittite probing actions that test Egyptian resolve without violating formal treaty agreements. Western approaches show increased Libyan raiding activity that suggests coordination among traditionally independent tribal groups. Southern frontiers report successful completion of diplomatic negotiations with Nubian chieftains, whose cooperation ensures continued access to gold mining regions. Each military report requires careful evaluation of threat levels and response options that balance immediate security needs against longer-term strategic objectives. The pharaoh's experience in personal combat during his younger years informs his understanding of tactical requirements, while his decades of administrative responsibility guide strategic planning that considers resource limitations and political consequences. Naval intelligence provides updates on Mediterranean conditions affecting Egyptian commercial and military interests. Piracy levels have increased significantly in recent months, threatening merchant vessels carrying valuable cargoes between Egyptian ports and foreign markets. The Phoenician city-states report unusual military preparations by seagoing peoples whose intentions remain unclear, but whose capabilities could pose significant challenges to established trading relationships. The pharaoh's response to these naval reports demonstrates sophisticated understanding of maritime strategy and commercial economics. His instructions balance the need for merchant protection against the costs of maintaining naval forces in distant waters, while his diplomatic initiatives seek to address piracy through international cooperation rather than purely military solutions. Administrative reports from provincial governors reveal the complex challenges of governing an empire whose territories encompass diverse geographical regions and cultural traditions. The Delta provinces enjoy exceptional prosperity due to favorable flooding conditions and successful harvest yields. Upper Egyptian territories face challenges from localized drought conditions that require careful water management and possible tax adjustments. Newly conquered regions in Syria and Palestine report stable conditions, but require continued military presence to deter potential rebellions. The breakfast meal unfolds in chambers overlooking gardens where exotic plants from throughout the empire create displays of natural beauty that reflect the geographical extent of Egyptian influence. Fruits gathered from trees planted by previous pharaohs provide sweet accompaniment to bread, whose quality demonstrates the agricultural abundance that flows from competent governance. The morning's menu includes delicacies prepared by cooks whose culinary skills have been refined through generations of royal service. During this meal, the pharaoh receives detailed briefings on matters requiring immediate attention throughout the day. The high priest of Ptah seeks royal approval for modifications to temple construction projects that would incorporate new artistic techniques developed by Memphis craftsmen. The royal architect presents revised plans for harbour improvements at Thebes that would accommodate larger vessels while maintaining defensive capabilities against potential naval attacks. The morning's first major challenge involves mediating a complex dispute between rival trading guilds, whose competition has escalated into open conflict threatening commercial stability in several major cities. The silk merchants claim exclusive rights to import luxury textiles from distant eastern kingdoms, while the linen producers argue that domestic manufacturing deserves protection against foreign competition that undermines local employment. The pharaoh's handling of this commercial dispute reveals the economic sophistication that has enabled Egyptian prosperity throughout his reign. His questions probe the underlying market forces driving guild competition, while his proposed solutions balance competing interests without creating dangerous precedents that might encourage similar conflicts in other industries. The resolution demonstrates creative problem-solving that addresses immediate concerns while strengthening broader economic structures. Import restrictions will be modified to ensure adequate supplies of luxury goods while protecting domestic producers through preferential purchasing agreements for government contracts. Training programs will be established to help local craftsmen develop skills needed to compete with foreign manufacturers, while trade missions will seek new markets for Egyptian products that reduce dependence on traditional commercial relationships. Between formal proceedings, urgent messages arrive requiring immediate royal attention. A courier from the Sinai copper mines brings word that recent discoveries have revealed ore deposits far richer than previous surveys indicated, promising increased revenues for imperial projects, but also attracting unwanted attention from Bedouin raiders seeking to capture mining facilities. Another messenger reports that diplomatic envoys from distant Babylon have arrived unexpectedly at the border, requesting safe passage to the capital for discussions whose nature remains mysterious, but whose timing suggests possible connection to recent political developments in Mesopotamia. The pharaoh's responses to these developments reflect strategic thinking that considers multiple implications and potential consequences. He authorizes enhanced security for mining operations while ensuring that protective measures don't disrupt production schedules. He approves the Babylonian diplomatic mission while implementing security protocols that protect against potential espionage or assassination attempts. The morning audience concludes with presentations from craftsmen seeking royal patronage for artistic projects that would enhance Egypt's cultural reputation while providing employment for skilled artisans. Master sculptors propose monuments celebrating recent military victories through innovative artistic techniques that combine traditional Egyptian styles with influences absorbed from conquered territories. Jewelry designers present plans for ornamental pieces incorporating precious stones recently acquired through expanded trading relationships with distant kingdoms. The pharaoh's evaluation of these artistic proposals demonstrates aesthetic sensibilities that complement his administrative and military capabilities. His suggestions for design modifications reflect understanding of symbolic meaning and cultural significance, while his funding decisions balance artistic merit against available resources and competing priorities for imperial expenditure. As midday approaches, the formal court session transitions to private consultations with senior advisors whose expertise guides imperial policy across diverse areas of governmental responsibility. The Treasury Minister presents updated financial projections that reveal both current strength and emerging challenges requiring careful management. Military expenditures continue to increase due to enhanced security requirements, while construction costs exceed original estimates due to expanded project scope and rising material prices. The discussion that follows demonstrates the pharaoh's comprehensive understanding of fiscal policy and resource allocation. His questions identify potential savings opportunities, while his suggestions for revenue enhancement reflect knowledge of taxation principles and economic development strategies. The conversation reveals analytical skills that grasp complex relationships between public spending, economic growth, and social stability. Intelligence briefings provide detailed assessments of international developments affecting Egyptian security interests throughout the ancient world. Hittite military exercises along the Syrian frontier suggest possible preparations for operations against Egyptian vassal states, despite formal peace treaty obligations. Assyrian diplomatic missions to various Mesopotamian kingdoms indicate potential alliance building that could threaten the regional balance of power. Libyan tribal gatherings in western desert regions show coordination that might herald organized attacks against Egyptian territory. The pharaoh's analysis of these intelligence reports reflects strategic patience and comprehensive planning that has characterized his most successful foreign policy initiatives. Rather than responding immediately to apparent provocations, he authorizes enhanced surveillance while maintaining public adherence to existing diplomatic agreements. His instructions emphasize information gathering and contingency planning, while preserving flexibility for future responses based on clearer understanding of enemy intentions. The afternoon audience with the Kushite delegation provides opportunity to demonstrate Egyptian diplomatic sophistication while advancing strategic objectives in the vital southern regions that supply much of the empire's gold and exotic goods. The envoys present elaborate tribute offerings that acknowledge Egyptian supremacy, while seeking assurances about trading privileges and territorial arrangements that affect their kingdom's prosperity. The pharaoh's reception of these offerings balances diplomatic courtesy with subtle demonstrations of Egyptian power and cultural superiority. His knowledge of Kushite political structures impresses the visiting diplomats, while his promises of continued cooperation reassure allies concerned about potential policy changes under Egyptian leadership. The gifts he bestows in return represent Egyptian manufacturing capabilities, while the terms of agreements favor Egyptian commercial interests without appearing exploitative. The negotiations that follow reveal the complex calculations involved in maintaining imperial control over distant territories whose resources remain essential for Egyptian prosperity. Military protection requires significant expenditure for garrison forces and supply lines, while administrative oversight demands competent personnel willing to serve in challenging environments far from the comforts of civilization. The diplomatic solutions developed during these discussions demonstrate creative approaches that serve multiple objectives simultaneously. Kushite autonomy will be expanded in areas affecting internal governance, while Egyptian authority remains absolute in matters involving external relations and resource extraction. Cultural exchange programs will strengthen ties between Egyptian and Kushite elites, while military cooperation agreements ensure continued security against common threats from hostile neighbors. As afternoon shadows lengthen across the royal capital, the pharaoh's attention turns to religious responsibilities that occupy an increasingly important role in his daily schedule. The inspection of construction progress at the Great Abu Simbel Temple complex provides opportunity to monitor work on the monuments that will preserve his memory for future millennia while demonstrating Egyptian architectural supremacy to contemporary observers. The journey to the construction site offers views of the magnificent structures already taking shape, according to plans that incorporate both traditional Egyptian design principles and innovative engineering techniques. The massive statues being carved from living rock will present the pharaoh's image on a scale that dwarfs human observers, while the interior chambers will house religious ceremonies that connect Egyptian rulership with divine authority. The pharaoh's detailed examination of construction progress reveals his comprehensive understanding of architectural principles and artistic techniques. His discussions with master builders demonstrate knowledge of structural engineering, while his suggestions for decorative elements reflect aesthetic sensibilities that will influence Egyptian artistic traditions for generations to come. The craftsmen working under royal supervision represent the pinnacle of ancient artistic achievement. Stone carvers whose skills have been refined through decades of practice create reliefs that combine technical precision with emotional expression. Painters whose knowledge of pigments and techniques enables them to produce colors that will retain their brilliance for thousands of years, apply decorative schemes that transform architectural spaces into sacred environments. The evening meal provides welcome respite from official duties, while offering opportunity for family conversations that reveal the personal dimensions of imperial life. Queen Nefertari's observations about court social dynamics complement the pharaoh's political briefings, while her insights into women's perspectives provide information often overlooked in masculine administrative circles. Her beauty and intelligence have made her a legendary figure whose influence extends throughout Egyptian society and beyond. The royal children contribute their own perspectives on governmental effectiveness and administrative challenges within their respective areas of responsibility. Prince Kamweset's oversight of religious institutions provides valuable intelligence about priestly attitudes and temple finances that supplement formal reports from religious authorities. Prince Merneptah's military commands offer insights into army morale and frontier conditions that enhance understanding of security challenges facing the empire. These family discussions blend intimate affection with political calculation as personal relationships serve broader dynastic objectives. The pharaoh's questions about his children's activities demonstrate genuine paternal concern while ensuring that family members remain aligned with imperial policies and prepared for future leadership responsibilities that will maintain stability throughout the transition to the next generation. The evening's correspondence includes communications from distant territories, requiring royal guidance on challenges that exceed local administrative authority. Provincial governors request clarification of tax policies affecting unusual economic circumstances, while military commanders seek authorization for diplomatic initiatives that could reduce security costs through negotiated agreements with potential enemies. Each communication requires careful consideration of local conditions against broader imperial policies, while maintaining consistency in royal decisions across diverse geographical and cultural environments. The pharaoh's responses demonstrate administrative flexibility that enables effective governance of territories whose diverse populations and economic systems require different approaches to common challenges. As night settles over Pi-Ramesses, Ramses II prepares for sleep with the satisfaction of another successful day, governing the ancient world's greatest empire through the application of wisdom, experience, and administrative competence that has sustained Egyptian dominance throughout his remarkable reign. The challenges awaiting tomorrow will require fresh applications of the same qualities that have enabled his unprecedented success in managing the complex responsibilities of absolute power. The pharaoh's final reflections often turn to the historical legacy that his decisions create for future generations of Egyptians who will inherit the empire he has built and the traditions he has established. Every policy influences countless lives, while every action contributes to the cultural foundations that will sustain Egyptian civilization long after his reign has ended. The weight of such responsibility provides both burden and satisfaction as he contemplates the achievements that have defined his extraordinary career. Sleep comes gradually as the sounds of the great city settling into rest drift through palace windows, carrying the dreams and aspirations of millions of subjects whose prosperity and security depend upon the continued effectiveness of pharaonic governance. The eternal rhythm of the Nile flows onward through the darkness, bearing the hopes of a civilization that has achieved greatness under the rule of Ramses the Great. The rule of Ramses the Great. The gentle murmur of the Nile's eternal flow mingles with the distant sounds of temple bells as another dawn breaks over the empire that stretches from the cataracts of Nubia to the cedar forests of Lebanon. In the royal quarters of Abu Simbel, where massive stone guardians carved in his own likeness watch over the sacred river, Ramses awakens to the familiar weight of responsibilities that have shaped 3 decades of unprecedented rule. The morning light filtering through latticed windows reveals chambers whose every surface tells stories of divine kingship and earthly achievement. Painted scenes of cosmic battles between order and chaos remind the pharaoh of his sacred duty to maintain universal harmony, while golden fixtures reflect the prosperity that flows from competent governance. The air carries subtle fragrances of lotus blossoms and sacred oils, creating an atmosphere of sanctity that separates royal existence from the mundane concerns of ordinary mortals. Today brings particular significance, as messengers have arrived bearing news that will test every diplomatic skill the pharaoh has developed throughout his legendary reign. The Assyrian Empire, that growing power in distant Mesopotamia, has sent envoys requesting audience to discuss matters they claim affect the stability of the entire ancient world. Their timing suggests coordination with other international developments that require careful analysis and strategic response. The royal awakening follows patterns established through decades of ceremonial precision. Attendants approach with vessels of heated water infused with aromatic herbs, whose medicinal properties preserve royal health while their pleasant scents provide sensory pleasure. The process of cleansing and preparation transforms sleep-softened features into the commanding presence that subjects expect to encounter in their divine ruler. The selection of appropriate regalia for today's diplomatic encounters requires careful consideration of symbolic messages that will be interpreted by foreign observers seeking signs of Egyptian strength or weakness. The golden pectoral chosen for this occasion bears inscriptions celebrating military victories over the same Mesopotamian peoples whose representatives now seek audience, a subtle reminder of past conflicts while suggesting possibilities for future cooperation. The ceremonial beard, that distinctive symbol of pharaonic authority, receives particular attention, as its perfect positioning can influence how foreign diplomats perceive Egyptian dignity and divine favor. Crafted from materials more precious than most kingdoms' entire treasuries, it transforms mortal features into the living embodiment of cosmic authority that legitimizes absolute rule over millions of subjects. The morning meal unfolds in chambers overlooking the great river whose annual floods have sustained Egyptian civilization since time immemorial. Fresh bread, still warm from royal ovens, accompanies fruits whose sweetness reflects the agricultural abundance that enables Egypt to support vast armies and magnificent building projects while maintaining civilian prosperity that exceeds anything achieved by rival kingdoms. During breakfast, the pharaoh receives preliminary briefings about the Assyrian delegation, whose arrival has created excitement and concern throughout the capital. Intelligence reports suggest these envoys carry proposals for military alliance against common enemies, but their true intentions remain unclear. The careful balance between welcoming honored guests and maintaining defensive readiness requires diplomatic skills that few rulers possess. The walk to the audience chamber provides opportunity to observe daily activities within the royal compound that supports imperial administration. Scribes organize papyrus documents containing correspondence from governors throughout the empire, while craftsmen transport gifts destined for foreign rulers whose cooperation serves Egyptian strategic interests. The controlled activity reflects organizational capabilities that enable effective governance across vast distances and diverse populations. The throne room itself represents architectural achievement that demonstrates Egyptian cultural supremacy to visiting diplomats. Columns carved with mathematical precision support ceilings painted with astronomical designs that remind observers of the cosmic significance of pharaonic authority. The throne, elevated above the assembled court, ensures that foreign representatives must literally look up to Egyptian power while experiencing the visual impact of imperial magnificence. As the Assyrian delegation enters the sacred space, their carefully controlled expressions reveal trained diplomats attempting to project confidence while experiencing the overwhelming grandeur designed to impress foreign visitors. Their leader, a man whose bearing suggests military background and political sophistication, approaches the throne with movements that acknowledge Egyptian supremacy while maintaining personal dignity. The formal presentations begin with traditional exchanges of diplomatic courtesy that mask the serious negotiations underlying ceremonial politeness. The Assyrian gifts, including rare minerals and exquisitely crafted weapons, represent their kingdom's growing wealth and technical capabilities while acknowledging Egyptian dominance in regional affairs. The pharaoh's acceptance of these offerings balances gracious appreciation with subtle reminders of Egypt's superior position. The substantive discussions reveal complex international developments that threaten the carefully maintained balance of power throughout the ancient Near East. Assyrian intelligence suggests that Hittite military preparations extend beyond defensive measures to include offensive capabilities that could destabilize existing treaty arrangements. More concerning, tribal confederations in distant regions appear to be coordinating activities that might herald coordinated attacks against established civilizations. The pharaoh's questions probe beneath diplomatic language to identify underlying strategic realities that will determine whether cooperation or conflict serves Egyptian interests. His knowledge of regional politics impresses even experienced Assyrian diplomats, while his analytical insights reveal comprehensive understanding of military capabilities and geographical factors that influence strategic planning. The negotiations that develop during these exchanges demonstrate diplomatic sophistication that has enabled Egypt to maintain regional dominance through alliance and intimidation rather than constant warfare. The proposed agreements would create intelligence sharing arrangements that benefit both kingdoms while establishing protocols for military cooperation against common threats without compromising either nation's independence. Between formal diplomatic sessions, urgent messages arrive from frontier commanders reporting developments that require immediate royal attention. Libyan raiders have launched coordinated attacks against western oases, whose control affects caravan routes carrying valuable goods from sub-Saharan Africa. The timing of these raids suggests possible connection to broader hostile activities that might threaten multiple Egyptian interests simultaneously. The pharaoh's response to these military challenges reveals strategic thinking that considers immediate tactical requirements against longer-term diplomatic consequences. Military reinforcements are authorized for frontier garrisons, while diplomatic initiatives seek to address underlying causes of tribal hostility through negotiated settlements that preserve Egyptian interests while reducing long-term security costs. Naval reports indicate increased piracy in Mediterranean waters that threatens merchant vessels carrying Egyptian exports to foreign markets. The perpetrators appear to be well-organized groups operating from bases in regions beyond Egyptian control, suggesting coordination by hostile powers seeking to damage Egyptian commercial interests without direct military confrontation. The economic implications require careful analysis of response options that balance protective measures against available naval resources. The afternoon brings continuation of diplomatic discussions as Assyrian envoys present detailed proposals for military cooperation that would formalize alliance arrangements while preserving both kingdoms' sovereignty. The agreements under consideration would establish protocols for sharing intelligence about common enemies while coordinating defensive strategies that maximize combined military effectiveness without creating dangerous dependencies. The pharaoh's evaluation of these proposals demonstrates analytical skills that extract maximum advantage from diplomatic opportunities while minimizing potential risks. His counter-proposals modify Assyrian suggestions to ensure Egyptian interests receive appropriate priority while offering sufficient benefits to maintain Assyrian enthusiasm for cooperative arrangements. Religious ceremonies occupy the late afternoon as the pharaoh fulfills sacred duties that connect earthly governance with divine authority. The rituals performed in Abu Simbel's inner sanctuaries serve both spiritual and political purposes, reinforcing the theological foundations of royal power while demonstrating continued divine favor to subjects whose loyalty depends partly on their belief in pharaonic sacred authority. The temple ceremonies themselves represent religious traditions refined over millennia of Egyptian civilization. Incense burns in golden braziers, while priests chant prayers whose ancient words have accompanied pharaonic rule since the pyramids were young. The elaborate rituals create sacred atmosphere that separates royal presence from mundane existence, while reinforcing cosmic connections that legitimize absolute authority. The pharaoh's participation in these ceremonies reveals genuine religious conviction that complements his political calculations. His prayers for Egyptian prosperity and divine guidance in governing decisions reflect sincere belief in sacred responsibilities that accompany temporal power. The combination of authentic faith and practical wisdom has contributed significantly to his remarkable success in maintaining stability throughout decades of challenging rule. Evening brings family gatherings that provide respite from official duties while offering opportunity for private consultations about dynastic concerns that affect imperial continuity. Queen Nefertari's insights into court social dynamics complement formal intelligence reports, while her observations about women's perspectives reveal information often overlooked by masculine administrative networks. The royal children, now experienced adults with significant governmental responsibilities, contribute their assessments of administrative effectiveness and potential challenges within their respective areas of authority. Their reports provide informal intelligence about bureaucratic performance and popular attitudes that supplement official briefings while strengthening family bonds that ensure dynastic stability during future transitions. These intimate conversations reveal the personal costs of absolute power as family relationships blend genuine affection with political calculation. The pharaoh's concern for his children's welfare competes with dynastic requirements that subordinate individual preferences to imperial needs. The emotional complexity of royal family life adds human dimension to the awesome responsibilities of governing millions of subjects whose lives depend upon effective leadership. The evening's correspondence includes messages from distant territories whose governors face unusual challenges requiring royal guidance. Economic disruptions caused by natural disasters affect tax collection schedules, while diplomatic complications with neighboring kingdoms threaten established trading relationships. Each situation requires careful analysis of local conditions against broader imperial policies, while maintaining consistency in royal decisions across diverse environments. Intelligence briefings reveal ongoing developments in the international situation that require continuous monitoring and potential response adjustments. Hittite military activities along Syrian frontiers suggest possible preparations for operations that could violate peace treaty obligations. Assyrian diplomatic missions to various kingdoms indicate alliance-building efforts that might alter regional power balances in ways that threaten Egyptian interests. The pharaoh's analysis of these intelligence reports reflects strategic patience that has characterized his most successful foreign policy initiatives. His instructions emphasize information gathering and contingency planning, while preserving diplomatic flexibility for future responses based on clearer understanding of enemy intentions and capabilities. As night descends over the great river, whose eternal flow has witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations, Ramses II prepares for sleep with the satisfaction of another day, successfully navigating the complex challenges that define imperial governance in an age of constant threat and opportunity. Tomorrow will bring fresh demands upon royal wisdom and administrative competence, while continuing the endless task of maintaining Egyptian dominance through careful balance of strength and diplomacy. The pharaoh's final reflections often turn to the monumental legacy that his reign will leave for future generations of Egyptians who will inherit the empire he has expanded and the traditions he has refined. Every decision influences the historical trajectory of civilization, while every achievement contributes to cultural foundations that will sustain Egyptian greatness long after his remarkable reign has ended. The sounds of night settle over Abu Simbel as palace guards take their positions, and the great city gradually grows quiet, except for the eternal murmur of the sacred river. Beyond temple walls, millions of subjects sleep peacefully under the protection of Egyptian military might, while garrison forces maintain their vigilant watch against potential enemies gathering in distant lands. Sleep comes gradually to the royal consciousness as dreams blend memories of past triumphs with visions of future achievements that will further enhance Egyptian glory. In these nocturnal wanderings, the pharaoh sees completed temples that will preserve his memory throughout eternity, while envisioning diplomatic victories that will secure lasting peace for his people through strength and wisdom rather than endless warfare. The night passes peacefully over the Nile Valley, while throughout the vast empire, the systems and institutions that Ramses II has perfected continue their work of maintaining order, prosperity, and security for a civilization that has achieved unprecedented greatness under his legendary rule. The eternal rhythm of the great river carries forward the dreams and aspirations of a people whose achievements will echo through history, long after the last pyramid stone has weathered, and the final hieroglyphic inscription has been deciphered by scholars seeking to understand the magnificence that was ancient Egypt under Ramses the Great. Dawn approaches with the subtle changes in atmosphere that herald another day of governing the ancient world's most powerful empire. The gentle stirring of air through palace chambers carries the familiar sense of lotus blossoms and sacred oils, while distant sounds announce the awakening of a great city whose prosperity reflects the competent administration that has sustained Egyptian dominance for 3 decades of unprecedented rule. In the growing light, the massive stone guardians carved into the cliff face seem to awaken with their royal model, their eternal gaze sweeping across the sacred river that connects all Egyptian territories in an endless chain of prosperity and power. These monuments, more magnificent than anything attempted by rival civilizations, will preserve the pharaoh's image and achievements for future millennia, while serving as permanent reminders of the heights that human ambition can achieve when guided by wisdom and supported by divine favor. The royal chambers gradually fill with the subtle activities that prepare for another day of imperial responsibility. Attendants move with practiced silence while scribes organize documents containing the accumulated business of governing territories that stretch from tropical Africa to the cedar mountains of Lebanon. The careful orchestration of royal routine reflects organizational capabilities that enable effective administration across vast distances and diverse populations. The morning ablutions proceed with ceremonial precision, as warm water infused with medicinal herbs cleanses away the residue of sleep, while aromatic oils prepare royal skin for another day of contact with golden ornaments and precious fabrics. The process transforms private humanity into public divinity through carefully prescribed rituals that connect contemporary practice with ancient traditions legitimizing pharaonic authority. The selection of appropriate regalia requires consideration of symbolic messages that will influence how subjects and foreign observers interpret royal appearance. Today's schedule includes inspection of military installations whose readiness affects Egyptian security throughout the region, demanding ceremonial dress that projects martial authority while maintaining religious significance essential for divine kingship. The royal breakfast unfolds in chambers whose painted walls depict scenes of cosmic harmony, maintained through pharaonic intervention in the eternal struggle between order and chaos. Fresh provisions demonstrate the agricultural abundance that flows from competent governance, while exotic delicacies reveal the geographical extent of Egyptian commercial networks and tributary relationships. During this meal, senior advisors present briefings on overnight developments requiring immediate royal attention. Military commanders report successful completion of defensive preparations along frontier regions where intelligence suggests potential hostile activity. Treasury officials provide updated assessments of imperial revenues that continue to exceed projections despite increased military expenditures necessitated by growing security concerns. The morning court session begins with traditional acknowledgements of royal divinity and imperial authority that reinforce sacred foundations of absolute power. Incense burns in precious braziers, while priests offer prayers for continued divine favor and Egyptian prosperity. The ceremonial language employed during these rituals connects contemporary governance with ancient traditions that legitimize royal authority through association with cosmic order. The first petitioners present cases that illustrate the full spectrum of challenges facing Egyptian society under royal rule. Merchants seek protection for trading expeditions, venturing into regions where political instability threatens commercial activities. Farmers request assistance with irrigation projects that would increase agricultural productivity while reducing vulnerability to irregular flooding patterns. Craftsmen propose innovations in manufacturing techniques that could enhance Egyptian competitive advantages in international markets. Each case requires careful consideration of competing priorities and available resources while maintaining consistency with established policies and legal precedents. The pharaoh's responses demonstrate comprehensive understanding of economic principles, legal traditions, and administrative procedures that has enabled effective governance throughout his remarkable reign. Between formal proceedings, urgent communications arrive from distant territories where local officials face situations requiring royal guidance. A provincial governor reports unusual tribal movements along desert frontiers that might herald coordinated attacks against Egyptian settlements. Military commanders seek authorization for diplomatic initiatives that could resolve border tensions through negotiated agreements rather than costly military interventions. The pharaoh's responses to these challenges reflect strategic thinking that balances immediate tactical requirements against longer-term political objectives. His instructions demonstrate understanding of regional dynamics while maintaining central authority over policy decisions that affect imperial interests throughout the vast territories under Egyptian control. Intelligence briefings reveal ongoing developments in international relations that require continuous monitoring and potential response preparations. Recent Assyrian diplomatic activities suggest possible alliance-building efforts that could alter regional power balances, while Hittite military exercises near Syrian frontiers indicate potential preparations for operations that might threaten Egyptian vassal states. The analysis of these intelligence reports reveals comprehensive understanding of foreign capabilities and intentions, while demonstrating strategic patience that has characterized successful Egyptian foreign policy throughout the pharaoh's reign. The instructions issued for response preparations emphasize information gathering and diplomatic flexibility while maintaining military readiness for various potential scenarios. As morning transitions to afternoon, the royal schedule shifts from administrative duties to ceremonial responsibilities that reinforce cultural traditions and religious obligations essential for maintaining social stability. The inspection of temple construction projects provides opportunity to monitor progress on monuments that will preserve royal memory while demonstrating Egyptian architectural supremacy to contemporary and future observers. The journey to construction sites offers views of magnificent structures taking shape according to plans that incorporate both traditional design principles and innovative engineering techniques. Master builders coordinate the efforts of thousands of workers whose skills represent the pinnacle of ancient craftsmanship, while their organized labor demonstrates administrative capabilities that enable achievement of seemingly impossible architectural goals. The pharaoh's examination of construction progress reveals detailed knowledge of building techniques and artistic principles that guide suggestions for design modifications and decorative enhancements. His discussions with project supervisors demonstrate understanding of structural engineering, while his aesthetic recommendations reflect cultural sensibilities that will influence Egyptian artistic traditions for generations. The afternoon audience with foreign ambassadors provides opportunity to advance Egyptian diplomatic interests while gathering information about international developments that could affect imperial security. Representatives from Mediterranean kingdoms present tribute offerings that acknowledge Egyptian supremacy while seeking assurances about commercial privileges and military protection for their merchant vessels. The diplomatic negotiations that follow reveal complex calculations involved in maintaining Egyptian influence over diverse territories and populations, whose cooperation requires different combinations of incentives and deterrence. The agreements reached during these discussions balance Egyptian interests against allied needs, while establishing precedents that will guide future diplomatic relationships. Evening brings return to palace chambers, where family conversations provide respite from official duties, while offering opportunity for private consultations about dynastic concerns affecting imperial continuity. The intimate discussions that follow blend personal affection with political calculation, as family relationships serve broader objectives of maintaining stability during eventual transitions to future leadership. As night settles over Abu Simbel and the Eternal River continues its ancient journey toward the Mediterranean Sea, Ramses II reflects on another successful day of governing the ancient world's greatest empire through application of wisdom, experience, and divine favor that has sustained Egyptian dominance throughout his legendary reign. The massive stone guardians carved into the cliff face stand eternal watch over the sacred river, while millions of subjects throughout the empire sleep peacefully under protection of Egyptian military might and administrative competence. The night passes quietly over territories that stretch from tropical Africa to the mountains of Lebanon, carrying dreams of continued prosperity under pharaonic rule that has brought unprecedented peace and abundance to the civilized world. In royal dreams, visions of completed monuments blend with memories of diplomatic triumphs and military victories that have established Egyptian supremacy throughout the ancient Near East. These nocturnal wanderings reveal subconscious processing of the enormous responsibilities that accompany absolute power, while providing psychological preparation for future challenges that will test every skill developed through decades of successful governance. The eternal rhythm of the Nile flows onward through darkness, bearing the hopes and aspirations of a civilization that has achieved greatness under Ramses the Great, whose reign will be remembered as the Golden Age when Egyptian power reached its zenith, and the name of Pharaoh commanded respect throughout the known world. The gentle splash of oars against the sacred waters announces the arrival of the royal barge at the great temple of Karnak, where morning rituals will connect earthly governance with divine will. As the pharaoh steps onto stone quays, worn smooth by centuries of royal visits, priests emerge from shadowed doorways with the measured pace of men whose every movement carries religious significance. The air shimmers with heat that will soon become oppressive, but in these early hours, the warmth feels like an embrace from Ra himself, blessing another day of divine kingship. The procession into the temple follows patterns established when the pyramids were already ancient. Incense bearers lead the way, their golden censers releasing clouds of frankincense that transport consciousness beyond mundane concerns toward communion with forces that govern cosmic order. Behind them, musicians play instruments whose melodies have accompanied pharaonic worship since the dawn of Egyptian civilization, their rhythms synchronized with the eternal heartbeat of the Nile that sustains all life in this blessed land. The inner sanctuaries of Karnak reveal artistic achievements that surpass anything attempted by rival civilizations. Columns soar toward painted ceilings that map the movements of stars and planets, while walls bear reliefs depicting the pharaoh's divine connections through scenes of cosmic battles and celestial ceremonies. Gold leaf catches and multiplies the flickering light of oil lamps, creating an atmosphere where earthly and divine realms merge in perfect harmony. The morning offerings proceed with ritual precision, that transforms simple gifts into sacred communication with the gods. Fresh bread, still warm from temple ovens, represents the agricultural abundance that flows from divine favor toward competent rulers. Precious oils from distant lands demonstrate the geographical extent of Egyptian influence, while their aromatic properties create sensory experiences that elevate consciousness beyond ordinary perception. Wine aged in temple cellars provides libations whose quality reflects the craftsmanship and patience that characterize Egyptian civilization at its finest. As the pharaoh performs these ancient rites, his consciousness expands to encompass responsibilities that extend far beyond personal concerns. The prayers he offers seek divine guidance for decisions that will affect millions of subjects, while requesting continued protection for an empire that stretches across vast territories filled with diverse populations. The weight of such intercession might overwhelm a lesser mind, but decades of practice have taught him to find strength and clarity through communion with forces greater than human understanding. The temple ceremonies conclude with prophecies delivered by priests, whose training enables them to interpret divine messages through observations of natural phenomena and sacred signs. Today's auguries suggest favorable conditions for military operations, while warning against hasty diplomatic initiatives that might disturb carefully maintained alliance structures. The subtle guidance provided through these spiritual channels complements practical intelligence gathered through human networks, creating comprehensive understanding that enables informed decision-making about complex challenges. The return journey to the palace provides opportunity to observe morning activities throughout the royal capital, as citizens begin another day of productive labor under Egyptian rule. Merchants arrange displays of goods that represent commercial networks extending throughout the known world, while craftsmen prepare workshops for the creation of artifacts whose quality makes Egyptian culture famous among foreign peoples. The controlled bustle reflects organizational capabilities that enable urban civilization to flourish while supporting military forces and monumental construction projects simultaneously. The royal barge glides silently along waterways that connect all Egyptian territories in an endless chain of communication and commerce. Smaller vessels laden with tribute goods from distant provinces pass in respectful acknowledgement of pharaonic presence, while fishing boats pause their activities to allow unimpeded passage for divine authority. The river traffic demonstrates economic vitality that flows from political stability maintained through competent administration and strategic wisdom. Palace corridors buzz with purposeful activity as courtiers and officials prepare for the day's formal proceedings. Scribes organize papyrus documents containing correspondence from governors throughout the empire, while clerks copy royal decrees that will be distributed to administrative centers across thousands of miles. The careful orchestration of bureaucratic functions enables effective governance of territories whose diverse populations require different approaches to common challenges. The midday meal unfolds in chambers cooled by ingenious architectural features that channel breezes from the sacred river while providing relief from heat that grows increasingly oppressive as Ra reaches the zenith of his daily journey. Fresh fish, caught at dawn by royal fishermen, accompanies vegetables cultivated in palace gardens whose irrigation systems demonstrate engineering capabilities that enable agricultural productivity despite challenging climatic conditions. The menu reflects both local abundance and exotic imports that showcase Egyptian commercial dominance throughout the ancient world. During this repast, urgent dispatches arrive from frontier commanders reporting developments that require immediate royal attention. Bedouin raiders have attacked mining convoys returning from copper extraction sites in the Sinai, their timing suggesting coordination with hostile elements seeking to disrupt Egyptian resource-gathering operations. The boldness of these attacks indicates either desperation or confidence that suggests external support from enemies seeking to weaken Egyptian economic foundations. The pharaoh's response to these military challenges reveals strategic thinking that considers immediate tactical requirements against longer-term security objectives. Additional garrison forces are authorized for mining region protection, while diplomatic initiatives seek to address underlying causes of tribal hostility through negotiated agreements that preserve Egyptian interests while reducing long-term enforcement costs. The careful balance between strength and accommodation has enabled successful management of frontier challenges throughout his remarkable reign. Administrative reports from provincial governors reveal the complex realities of governing an empire whose territories encompass vastly different geographical and cultural environments. The Delta provinces continue to enjoy exceptional prosperity due to favorable flooding conditions that have produced agricultural surpluses exceeding storage capacities. Upper Egyptian territories face challenges from irregular precipitation patterns that require careful water management and possible tax adjustments to prevent civilian hardship. The newly conquered regions in Syria and Palestine report stable conditions, but require continued military presence to deter potential rebellions by populations whose loyalty remains uncertain. The costs of maintaining adequate forces in these distant territories must be balanced against revenues generated through taxation and tribute collection, creating complex calculations that test administrative capabilities and strategic wisdom. Economic briefings reveal both encouraging trends and emerging challenges that require careful policy adjustments. Commercial revenues continue to exceed projections as Egyptian manufactured goods find ready markets throughout the ancient world, while agricultural exports generate substantial foreign exchange through established trading relationships. However, increased military expenditures necessitated by growing security concerns are beginning to strain budgets allocated for construction projects and civilian programs. The afternoon court session begins with the traditional ceremonies that reinforce royal authority and divine connections. Courtiers approach the throne with carefully rehearsed gestures of submission, while foreign diplomats observe protocols that acknowledge Egyptian supremacy without compromising their own dignity. The elaborate rituals serve both religious and political purposes, demonstrating the wealth and organizational capabilities that sustain imperial dominance while creating atmospheric conditions that facilitate successful negotiations. The first major case involves a boundary dispute between powerful families whose landholdings border sacred temple precincts near Memphis. Both claimants present carefully prepared arguments supported by property documents and witness testimonies, while their respective advocates cite legal precedents dating back several pharaonic reigns. The complexity of evidence requires detailed analysis of inheritance laws, religious obligations, and agricultural rights that intersect in ways that could establish important precedents for future cases. The pharaoh's handling of this dispute demonstrates judicial wisdom that has earned respect throughout Egyptian society. His questions probe underlying motivations, while his observations identify compromise possibilities that might preserve family relationships without creating dangerous precedents. The resolution balances competing claims through creative solutions that serve broader imperial interests while maintaining social stability among influential constituencies. Between formal proceedings, intelligence officers present briefings on international developments that could affect Egyptian strategic interests throughout the region. Hittite diplomatic missions to various kingdoms suggest alliance-building efforts that might alter regional power balances in ways that threaten established Egyptian relationships. Assyrian military preparations in northern Mesopotamia indicate possible expansion plans that could bring hostile forces closer to Egyptian sphere of influence. The analysis of these foreign policy challenges reveals comprehensive understanding of regional dynamics, while demonstrating strategic patience that has characterized successful Egyptian diplomacy throughout the pharaoh's reign. Response preparations emphasize intelligence gathering and diplomatic flexibility while maintaining military readiness for various potential scenarios that might require coordinated action to preserve Egyptian interests. Naval reports indicate successful completion of anti-piracy operations that have restored security to Mediterranean shipping lanes, essential for Egyptian commercial activities. The coordinated efforts between Egyptian naval forces and allied kingdoms have eliminated major pirate bases while establishing patrol patterns that deter future criminal enterprises. The economic benefits of secure sea routes justify the military expenditures required for naval operations, while strengthening relationships with trading partners who depend upon Egyptian protection. The late afternoon brings inspection of architectural projects that will preserve royal memory while demonstrating Egyptian cultural supremacy to future generations. The massive temple complex under construction at Ramses represents engineering achievements that surpass anything attempted by contemporary civilizations, while showcasing artistic innovations that blend traditional Egyptian styles with influences absorbed from conquered territories. Master builders coordinate the efforts of thousands of workers whose specialized skills enable creation of monuments whose scale and beauty will inspire awe for millennia. Stone carvers shape granite blocks with mathematical precision, while painters apply pigments whose chemical compositions will preserve their brilliance throughout centuries of exposure to harsh desert conditions. The coordination required for such massive projects demonstrates administrative capabilities that enable Egypt to achieve seemingly impossible goals through organized human effort. The pharaoh's detailed knowledge of construction techniques becomes apparent through discussions with project supervisors about structural modifications and decorative enhancements. His suggestions reflect understanding of both practical engineering requirements and symbolic meanings that architectural elements convey to observers. The combination of technical competence and aesthetic sensibility has enabled creation of monuments that serve both religious purposes and political objectives. Evening brings return to palace chambers, where family conversations provide respite from official responsibilities while addressing dynastic concerns that affect imperial continuity. Queen Nefertari's insights into court social dynamics complement formal intelligence reports while revealing information about factional loyalties and potential sources of internal conflict that might threaten governmental stability during future leadership transitions. The royal children contribute perspectives on administrative effectiveness within their respective areas of governmental responsibility. Prince Kenwaset's oversight of religious institutions provides intelligence about priestly attitudes and temple finances that supplement official reports from religious authorities. Prince Meneptah's military commands offer assessments of army morale and strategic readiness that enhance understanding of security challenges facing the empire. These intimate discussions blend genuine family affection with political calculations, as personal relationships serve broader objectives of maintaining dynastic stability and preparing future leaders for the enormous responsibilities of absolute power. The emotional complexity of royal family life adds human dimensions to the awesome burdens of governing millions of subjects whose welfare depends upon effective leadership and wise policy decisions. The evening's correspondence includes messages from distant governors facing unusual challenges that require royal guidance beyond established administrative procedures. Natural disasters affecting agricultural production necessitate emergency relief measures, while diplomatic complications with neighboring kingdoms threaten trading relationships that generate significant imperial revenues. Each situation demands careful analysis of local conditions against broader policy frameworks, while maintaining consistency in royal decisions across diverse environments. Intelligence briefings reveal ongoing developments in regional security situations that require continuous monitoring and potential response adjustments. Recent tribal movements along western frontiers suggest possible coordination among traditionally independent groups, while increased Hittite military activities near Syrian borders indicate potential treaty violations that could destabilize carefully maintained peace agreements. The pharaoh's analysis of these security challenges reflects strategic wisdom that considers multiple scenarios and contingency planning for various possible outcomes. His instructions emphasize diplomatic solutions while maintaining military preparedness for situations that might require forceful intervention to preserve Egyptian interests and protect allied populations from hostile aggression. As night descends over the royal capital, temple bells chime the hours, while palace guards assume their nocturnal positions throughout the extensive compound that houses imperial administration. The sounds of a great city settling into rest drift through royal chambers as millions of subjects throughout the empire prepare for sleep under the protection of Egyptian military might and administrative competence. The pharaoh's final reflections before sleep often turn to the monumental legacy that his decisions create for future generations who will inherit the empire he has expanded and the cultural traditions he has refined. Every policy influences the historical trajectory of civilization, while every achievement contributes to foundations that will sustain Egyptian greatness long after his remarkable reign has concluded. Sleep comes gradually, as consciousness surrenders to dreams that blend memories of past triumphs with visions of future accomplishments yet to be achieved. In these nocturnal wanderings, completed temples stand in eternal testimony to royal vision, while diplomatic victories secure lasting peace through strength and wisdom rather than endless warfare. The subconscious mind processes the enormous responsibilities of absolute power while preparing for tomorrow's fresh challenges that will test every skill developed through decades of successful governance. The night passes peacefully over the Nile Valley, while throughout the vast empire, the systems and institutions that Ramses II has perfected continue their eternal work of maintaining order, prosperity, and security for a civilization that has achieved unprecedented heights under his legendary leadership. The sacred river flows onward through darkness, carrying dreams and aspirations that will echo through history, long after the final stone has been placed upon the last monument to commemorate the Golden Age when Egyptian power reached its zenith under Ramses the Great. Dawn approaches with subtle atmospheric changes that herald another day of imperial responsibility, as the eternal cycle continues that has sustained Egyptian civilization through countless generations of divine kingship. The massive stone guardians of Abu Simbel maintain their vigil over the sacred waters, while the royal consciousness prepares for renewed communion with forces that govern the destiny of nations and determine the fate of empires that rise and fall according to divine will and human wisdom. The morning sun climbs higher over the sacred river, casting golden reflections across waters that have witnessed the rise and fall of countless dynasties before this remarkable reign. In the royal chambers of Ramses, scribes await with fresh papyrus and reed pens to record the pharaoh's responses to overnight dispatches from the furthest corners of his empire. The weight of correspondence has grown steadily throughout his reign, as territorial expansion and diplomatic complexity require increasingly sophisticated administrative responses to challenges that span continents. The first document presented bears the seal of the governor of Elephantine, that crucial fortress city guarding Egypt's southern approaches. His report describes unusual activity among Nubian tribes beyond the Second Cataract, where traditional patterns of seasonal movement have given way to concentrated gatherings that suggest either religious festivals or military preparations. The distinction matters enormously, as misinterpreting peaceful ceremonies as hostile preparations could trigger unnecessary conflicts that damage profitable relationships with gold-producing regions. Ramses studies the governor's carefully worded assessments while considering intelligence gathered through other channels. Desert scouts report increased movement along caravan routes traditionally used for peaceful trade, while merchants returning from southern expeditions describe conversations with tribal leaders whose concerns about Egyptian policies seem genuine rather than manufactured for strategic deception. The pharaoh's questions probe beneath surface observations to identify underlying patterns that might reveal true intentions. The response, he dictates, demonstrates diplomatic sophistication, refined through decades of managing complex international relationships. Additional intelligence gathering is authorized through carefully selected agents whose cultural backgrounds enable natural integration with tribal communities. Diplomatic initiatives offering expanded trading privileges are approved alongside discrete military preparations that could respond rapidly to genuine threats without appearing provocative to peaceful populations. The careful balance reflects understanding that effective imperial governance requires preparation for multiple scenarios, while avoiding actions that create the very problems they seek to prevent. Military dispatches from the eastern frontier present different but equally complex challenges requiring immediate royal attention. Hittite forces have conducted exercises uncomfortably close to Egyptian vassal territories in Syria, their movements suggesting either routine training activities or reconnaissance preparations for future operations. The distinction carries enormous implications for regional stability, as Egyptian responses must deter genuine threats without violating peace treaty obligations that have brought unprecedented prosperity to both empires. The commander's report includes detailed observations about Hittite equipment, tactics, and apparent objectives that reveal professional military analysis rather than panicked speculation. Bronze weapons displayed during exercises show technological improvements that could affect battlefield effectiveness, while cavalry formations demonstrate tactical innovations that might provide advantages in specific combat situations. However, the overall force size and logistical preparations suggest training exercises rather than invasion preparations, though the timing raises questions about Hittite strategic intentions. Ramses dictates instructions that reflect strategic patience combined with appropriate caution. Military readiness along the Syrian frontier will be enhanced through rotation of experienced units, while diplomatic channels explore Hittite motivations through carefully phrased inquiries about their training schedules and strategic objectives. Intelligence gathering will be intensified through agents positioned to observe actual capabilities rather than reported intentions, while Egyptian exercises will demonstrate comparable readiness without appearing directly responsive to Hittite activities. Commercial reports from Mediterranean trading centers reveal encouraging developments that validate long-term economic strategies designed to strengthen Egyptian influence through prosperity rather than conquest alone. Egyptian manufactured goods continue to find ready markets throughout the ancient world, while agricultural exports generate substantial foreign exchange that funds military preparedness and monumental construction simultaneously. The success of these commercial initiatives demonstrates that economic power can complement military strength in creating sustainable imperial dominance. However, increased piracy in eastern Mediterranean waters threatens merchant vessels carrying valuable cargoes between Egyptian ports and foreign markets. The perpetrators appear to operate from bases in regions beyond Egyptian control, suggesting either criminal enterprises taking advantage of political instability or coordinated attacks sponsored by hostile powers seeking to damage Egyptian economic interests without direct military confrontation. The economic implications require careful analysis of response options that balance protective measures against available naval resources. The Pharaoh's instructions authorize enhanced naval patrols while exploring diplomatic solutions through allied kingdoms whose own commercial interests suffer from piracy. Coordination between Egyptian naval forces and friendly powers could eliminate pirate bases while establishing precedents for future cooperation in maintaining maritime security. The approach reflects understanding that economic prosperity requires international stability that serves multiple kingdoms rather than Egyptian interests alone. Palace stewards interrupt these administrative sessions to announce the arrival of an unexpected delegation from the mysterious kingdom of Punt, whose representatives have travelled thousands of miles through dangerous territory to seek audience with the pharaoh. Their presence creates both opportunity and concern, as Punt's exotic goods generate enormous profits for Egyptian traders, while their diplomatic motivations remain unclear. The timing of their arrival suggests possible connection to other regional developments requiring careful investigation. The delegation's leader, a man whose bearing suggests noble birth and diplomatic training, presents credentials written in scripts that few Egyptian scholars can decipher. His gifts include aromatic woods, precious stones, and exotic animals whose value demonstrates Punt's desire to impress Egyptian authority while acknowledging pharaonic supremacy. However, the specific nature of his requests will require careful translation and cultural interpretation before appropriate responses can be formulated. Ramses receives these offerings with dignity appropriate to their obvious value, while ensuring that protocols acknowledge Punt's independence without compromising Egyptian precedents in regional affairs. The conversations that follow reveal complex concerns about trade route security, territorial boundaries, and diplomatic relationships with mutual neighbours whose policies affect both kingdoms. The discussions require cultural sensitivity combined with strategic thinking about long-term implications for Egyptian commercial interests. The afternoon brings return to the Great Throne Room, where provincial governors present their quarterly reports on administrative effectiveness and local challenges requiring royal guidance. These formal presentations represent the culmination of months of detailed record-keeping and analysis by officials whose careers depend upon demonstrating competent management of their assigned territories. The information they provide forms the foundation for policy adjustments that affect millions of subjects throughout the empire. The governor of Memphis reports exceptional agricultural yields that have produced surpluses requiring expanded storage facilities, while generating tax revenues exceeding projected levels. However, success creates new challenges as population growth strains urban infrastructure, while increased wealth attracts unwanted attention from criminal elements, seeking opportunities for theft and extortion. The solutions require coordinated responses involving urban planning, law enforcement, and economic policy that balance growth against stability. Reports from Delta provinces reveal similar prosperity accompanied by different complications. Favorable flooding conditions have enabled agricultural expansion into previously marginal lands, while improved irrigation systems support larger populations than historical norms. However, environmental changes affecting wildlife patterns have disrupted traditional hunting and fishing activities that supplement agricultural production for rural communities. The challenge involves managing ecological transitions while maintaining rural prosperity. Upper Egyptian territories face opposite problems, as irregular precipitation patterns threaten agricultural productivity, despite generally favorable conditions throughout the Nile Valley. Water management systems require expensive modifications, while tax policies need adjustment to prevent civilian hardship during periods of reduced harvest yields. The provincial governor requests authorization for emergency grain distributions, alongside longer-term infrastructure investments that could reduce vulnerability to climate variations. Each report requires careful consideration of local circumstances against broader imperial policies while maintaining consistency in royal decisions across diverse geographical and cultural environments. The pharaoh's responses demonstrate comprehensive understanding of agricultural economics, urban development, and social dynamics that enables effective governance of territories whose populations require different approaches to common challenges. Intelligence briefings interrupt these administrative proceedings as urgent developments require immediate royal attention. Assyrian diplomatic missions to various kingdoms suggest alliance-building efforts that could alter regional power balances in ways threatening established Egyptian relationships. The timing of these initiatives coincides suspiciously with other international developments that might indicate coordinated challenges to Egyptian regional dominance. Naval intelligence reports successful operations against pirate bases that have restored security to crucial shipping lanes, while demonstrating Egyptian naval capabilities to potential enemies observing Mediterranean activities. However, the operations revealed sophisticated organization among criminal enterprises that suggests external support rather than simple opportunistic behavior. The implications require enhanced surveillance of foreign involvement in activities threatening Egyptian commercial interests. The pharaoh's analysis of these intelligence developments reveals strategic thinking that considers multiple scenarios while preparing appropriate responses for various potential outcomes. Diplomatic initiatives will explore foreign intentions through carefully structured negotiations, while military preparations ensure readiness for situations requiring forceful intervention. The approach balances deterrent strength against provocative actions that might precipitate unnecessary conflicts. Evening ceremonies in the palace's private chapel provide spiritual grounding for decisions that affect millions of lives while connecting earthly governance with divine authority. The rituals performed in intimate settings serve both religious and psychological purposes, reinforcing theological foundations of royal power while offering personal communion with forces greater than human understanding. The prayers offered seek guidance for complex challenges while requesting continued protection for an empire that depends upon wise leadership. Family conversations during the evening meal blend personal affection with dynastic planning, as intimate relationships serve broader objectives of maintaining governmental stability. Queen Nefertari's observations about court social dynamics reveal information about factional loyalties and potential sources of internal conflict that complement formal intelligence reports. Her insights into women's perspectives provide understanding of social attitudes that influence policy effectiveness throughout Egyptian society. The royal children contribute assessments of administrative performance within their respective governmental responsibilities while preparing for future leadership roles that will maintain dynastic continuity. Prince Kamwaset's oversight of religious institutions provides intelligence about priestly attitudes and temple finances that affect imperial revenues and social stability. Prince Merneptah's military experience offers perspectives on strategic readiness and army morale that enhance understanding of security challenges facing the empire. These intimate discussions reveal the emotional complexity of royal family life, as personal relationships blend with political calculations affecting imperial continuity. The pharaoh's concern for his children's welfare competes with dynastic requirements that subordinate individual preferences to broader governmental needs. The balance between family affection and imperial responsibility adds human dimensions to the awesome burdens of absolute power. Correspondence from distant territories continues throughout the evening, as governors report developments requiring royal guidance beyond established administrative procedures. Natural disasters affecting regional economies necessitate emergency relief measures, while diplomatic complications with neighboring kingdoms threaten commercial relationships, generating significant imperial revenues. Each situation demands analysis of local conditions against broader policy frameworks while maintaining decision consistency across diverse environments. The pharaoh's responses demonstrate administrative flexibility that enables effective governance of territories whose diverse populations require different approaches to common challenges. His instructions provide clear guidance while allowing regional adaptation to local circumstances, creating governmental systems that balance central authority with practical effectiveness across vast geographical distances and cultural variations. Late evening intelligence briefings reveal ongoing developments in international relations, requiring continuous monitoring and potential response adjustments. Recent tribal movements along frontier regions suggest possible coordination among traditionally independent groups, while foreign diplomatic activities indicate alliance-building efforts that might threaten established regional relationships favorable to Egyptian interests. Strategic assessments of these developments reflect comprehensive understanding of regional dynamics while demonstrating patience that has characterized successful Egyptian foreign policy throughout the pharaoh's remarkable reign. Response preparations emphasize diplomatic solutions while maintaining military readiness for situations requiring intervention to preserve Egyptian interests and protect allied populations from hostile aggression. As midnight approaches, the palace gradually settles into nocturnal quiet, except for essential guard rotations and administrative activities that continue throughout the hours of darkness. The sounds of a great city preparing for rest drift through royal chambers as millions of subjects throughout the empire sleep peacefully under protection of Egyptian military might and governmental competence. The pharaoh's final reflections before sleep focus on the monumental responsibility of governing so many lives while managing territories whose prosperity depends upon wise policy decisions and effective administrative implementation. Every choice influences historical trajectories, while every achievement contributes to cultural foundations that will sustain Egyptian civilization long after his remarkable reign concludes. Sleep comes gradually as consciousness surrenders to dreams, blending memories of past accomplishments with visions of future achievements yet to be realized. In these nocturnal wanderings, completed monuments stand in eternal testimony to royal vision, while successful diplomatic initiatives secure lasting prosperity through wisdom rather than endless warfare. The subconscious mind processes enormous responsibilities while preparing for tomorrow's challenges that will test every skill developed through decades of unprecedented success. The sacred river continues its eternal journey through darkness, carrying dreams and aspirations of a civilization that has achieved greatness under leadership that has brought unprecedented peace and abundance to the ancient world. Throughout the vast empire, administrative systems and military institutions perfected during this legendary reign continue their work of maintaining order, prosperity, and security for territories stretching from tropical Africa to the cedar mountains of distant Lebanon. Night passes peacefully over the Nile Valley, while garrison forces maintain vigilant watch against potential enemies, and administrative officials prepare for another day of implementing policies that sustain Egyptian dominance through effective governance rather than force alone. The eternal rhythm of the great river flows onward, bearing hopes of a people whose achievements will echo through history as the Golden Age, when pharaonic power reached its zenith under Ramses the Great, whose wisdom and strength created an empire that defined the very meaning of civilization in the ancient world. The ancient world. The pre-dawn stillness carries whispers of eternity as Ramses stirs within chambers, where shadows dance with memories of 3 decades upon the throne of the two lands. These final years of his reign unfold like papyrus scrolls, bearing the weight of accumulated wisdom, each morning bringing fresh awareness of mortality's approach, despite the divine blood flowing through his veins. The royal awakening has grown more deliberate with advancing age, though the pharaoh's mind remains as sharp as the bronze blades carried by his palace guards. Attendants move with extra care around their aging sovereign, understanding that each day now represents precious time in the presence of greatness that may never again grace the earth. The morning rituals proceed with heightened reverence, as if the gods themselves pause to witness these intimate moments of transformation from mortal man to living deity. The golden light filtering through palace windows illuminates features that have become legendary throughout the known world. Though lined with years of decision-making that affected millions of lives, the royal countenance retains the commanding presence that once struck fear into enemy hearts, and inspired devotion among subjects stretching from Nubia's gold mines to Syria's cedar forests. The eyes that have gazed upon more of the earth's wonders than any man before him still burn with intelligence that has guided Egypt through its most glorious epoch. Today's correspondence brings news that would have seemed impossible during his youth, when the world appeared vast and unconquerable. Reports arrive from lands so distant that their names were unknown when he first donned the double crown. Territories where Egyptian influence now extends through trade networks and diplomatic relationships rather than military conquest alone. Merchants speak of kingdoms beyond the rising sun, where silk comes from creatures that spin golden threads, while southern explorers describe forests where trees grow larger than temple columns, and animals unknown to Egyptian bestiaries roam in endless multitudes. The morning meal unfolds in chambers where every surface tells stories of a reign that has redefined the possible. Painted walls depict battles won and monuments built, while golden vessels hold fruits from trees planted in conquered lands and wine aged in cellars that have known no master save Ramses himself. The pharaoh's appetite remains robust despite his years, reflecting the physical vitality that amazes physicians who have attended royal health since his prime. Senior advisors approach their elderly sovereign with the mixture of reverence and familiarity that comes from serving greatness through decades of shared challenges. These men, themselves grown grey in imperial service, carry briefings about an empire that has evolved far beyond the kingdom they once helped govern. Administrative systems refined through years of trial and success now operate with efficiency that enables effective rule over territories whose diversity would have overwhelmed earlier pharaohs. The Treasury Minister presents financial reports revealing wealth that surpasses the combined resources of all other kingdoms. Gold flows from Nubian mines in quantities that strain storage facilities, while tribute arrives from vassal states whose prosperity has grown under Egyptian protection. Commercial revenues from Mediterranean trade exceed the wildest projections made during the reign's early years, when such economic success seemed achievable only through divine intervention. Military briefings describe forces whose capabilities dwarf those of any potential enemy. Professional armies stationed throughout the empire maintain readiness levels that deter aggression, while their very presence reassures allied populations of continued Egyptian protection. Naval fleets patrol waterways from the Nile's mouth to distant shores where Egyptian merchants conduct business under flags that command universal respect. The morning court session begins with ceremonies that have evolved throughout the reign to accommodate the pharaoh's advancing years while preserving essential dignity. Courtiers approach with gestures refined through decades of protocol development, their movements choreographed to demonstrate proper reverence without taxing royal patience grown precious with time's passage. The throne itself has been modified to provide greater comfort during lengthy proceedings, though its magnificence remains undiminished. Petitioners present cases that illustrate how Egyptian society has matured under competent leadership. Commercial disputes involve trading networks spanning continents, while agricultural concerns address irrigation systems that support populations far exceeding historical levels. Legal precedents established during earlier years now provide frameworks for resolving complex issues that arise from prosperity and growth rather than scarcity and conflict. The pharaoh's responses to these matters demonstrate wisdom accumulated through experiences no other ruler has matched. His questions probe beneath surface presentations to identify underlying principles, while his judgments create precedents that will guide Egyptian governance long after his reign concludes. The legal traditions being established will influence civilization for centuries, creating foundations for justice that transcend temporary political arrangements. Between formal proceedings, private audiences allow for intimate conversations that reveal the personal dimensions of absolute power exercised across a lifetime of unprecedented achievement. Foreign ambassadors seek final meetings with a ruler whose reputation has become legendary throughout their homelands, while domestic officials request guidance that will sustain governmental effectiveness during eventual transitions to new leadership. Intelligence reports describe international conditions shaped fundamentally by Egyptian influence accumulated over decades of strategic diplomacy. Former enemies now seek alliance with an empire whose strength has proven both overwhelming and ultimately beneficial to regional stability. Trading relationships established through patient negotiation generate prosperity throughout the ancient world, while military deterrence prevents conflicts that once devastated entire populations. The afternoon inspection of Abu Simbel reveals monuments whose completion represents the culmination of architectural ambitions that once seemed beyond human capability. The massive statues gazing eternally across the sacred river have become pilgrimage destinations for people throughout the known world, while interior chambers house artistic treasures that preserve royal memory in forms that will endure throughout eternity. Master craftsmen put finishing touches on decorative elements whose beauty surpasses anything attempted by earlier civilizations. Walking through these completed halls, Ramses witnesses the physical manifestation of visions that sustained him through decades of challenge and triumph. Every surface tells stories of divine favor and human achievement, while hidden chambers contain treasures accumulated through successful policies that brought wealth flowing into Egyptian coffers from across the civilized world. The monuments represent more than personal aggrandizement, serving as permanent reminders of heights that human civilization can achieve under wise leadership. Evening brings family gatherings that have acquired special poignancy as the pharaoh contemplates mortality approaching even divine kings. Queen Nefertari, herself aged gracefully into a figure of legendary wisdom, shares observations about court life and social developments that complement official reports while providing perspectives shaped by feminine insights often overlooked in masculine administrative circles. Her continued beauty and intelligence make their relationship a model for royal marriages throughout the ancient world. The royal children, now mature leaders with their own significant responsibilities, contribute assessments of governmental effectiveness and administrative challenges within their respective areas of authority. Prince Meneptar's military experience provides confidence about Egypt's defensive capabilities, while Prince Kaimwaset's scholarly pursuits ensure cultural traditions will survive transitions to new leadership. Their competence offers reassurance that dynastic succession will maintain governmental stability. These intimate conversations blend personal affection with strategic planning as family relationships serve broader objectives of preparing for imperial continuity. The pharaoh's guidance helps shape future leaders while his accumulated wisdom provides frameworks for decision-making that will sustain Egyptian greatness throughout coming generations. The emotional complexity of royal family life adds human dimensions to responsibilities that encompass millions of lives across vast territories. Correspondence from distant provinces reveals administrative systems functioning smoothly despite the pharaoh's advancing years. Provincial governors report stable conditions, economic prosperity, and social harmony that reflect decades of competent policy implementation. The governmental structures created and refined throughout the reign now operate with efficiency that enables effective rule, even as royal attention necessarily becomes more selective. Final intelligence briefings describe international conditions fundamentally altered by Egyptian influence accumulated over 3 decades of strategic success. Regional power balances favor Egyptian interests, while alliance networks ensure continued stability throughout the ancient Near East. Military deterrence prevents conflicts, while diplomatic relationships generate prosperity that benefits all participants in Egyptian-dominated international systems. As the eternal stars wheel overhead and the sacred Nile continues its timeless journey toward the sea, we close our gentle exploration of a reign that defined the very pinnacle of human achievement. Through these quiet hours, you've walked alongside Ramses the Great, through the daily rhythms that sustained an empire stretching across continents, witnessing how divine kingship manifested itself in countless moments of wisdom, ceremony, and profound responsibility. His legacy flows onward like the river itself, carrying the dreams and accomplishments of a civilization that touch the heights of what mortals can achieve when guided by vision and sustained by unwavering dedication to greatness. Sleep peacefully, friend, knowing that some stories transcend time itself, echoing through eternity like whispers of the gods.